Hey guys, I'm Katnat Williams. I know some of you may be new to this channel, so I wanted to do a quick intro. I am not an attorney. I just like to learn about the law and watch trials with other people and see how different people react to different information. Every so often, though, I come across a case that really pulls at me, and the Edrick Faust case is one of them. If you're here watching this, you probably relate. Tonight we're going to do something a little bit different than normal. This is not going to be a rehashing of the entire trial. We're not going to be here to debate the trial. I really wanted to bring attorney Ahmad Cruz, and I'm so happy he agreed to come on and speak with us so we can go through the Edrick Faust trial in a way that brings some light to the record, to the rules of evidence, the limits, what's going to happen next, all of those things that I think you guys have questions about. So attorney Ahmad Cruz is here with me. I'm going to bring him up in just a second here. As you guys know, he represented Mr. Fost at trial. We're going to talk about nitty gritty and top level here and what happens next. If it seems like I'm speedy with the questions, it's because I want to make sure this is an impactful interview. I've done hours of commentary on this trial, so I'm going to try to hold myself back from going on my own tangents. And don't forget that Melanie Little also just did a phenomenal interview with Mr. Cruz over on her channel. So she should be linked in the description of this video. If the mod, since the chat is moving quickly already, could drop a link over to Melanie Little's interview. Make sure you guys bookmark that and catch that on replay if you have not seen it yet. So I'm going to skip over some of the small talk overlap from that interview and really try to make this a powerful double feature. Additionally, you guys see something below me here. If we can raise $33,000 in that fundraising goal before the stream ends, Mr. Cruz has agreed that we turn the questions over to you guys, the chat. We'll just lightning through your questions. Now, of course, he won't be able to answer anything that's, outside the bounds or, again, can't get into because of the appeal and or possible retrial. But you guys do great in the chat. I'm sure you'll hold it down. So if we can get to that goal, we are currently, I'm looking at it right now, we are sitting at $27,676. If we get there, the chat gets to take over. So the fundraiser is pinned at the top of the live chat. It's in the video description. If you're watching this on replay, crew, the fundraiser is going to keep going, so don't think that the time has passed. Please be willing to donate what you can and are willing to donate. A major goal right now is getting appellate counsel retained, and I'm going to let Mr. Cruz speak more on that and where things stand. But again, if you're willing, that Give, Send, Go link is the place to do it. It does make a difference. And without further ado, are you guys ready for Mr. Cruz? Here we go. The man of the hour. Welcome, Mr. Cruz. How are you doing?
I am okay. Okay. How about yourself?
Hey, we're gonna uplift your spirit. That's what the fundraiser, this game that we're playing to try to get to 33,000, is all about. You must be in a whirlwind of trying to collect your thoughts, trying to decompress post trial, post verdict. Can you speak about what's next, one step at a time?
I can, and you are right. It is a whirlwind of emotions and feelings. As I told Melanie, and I know you may have some people from what you just stated coming over, but you never remember the wins. It's the losses that you remember. And in Mr. Foss's case, it's hard to put into words. I feel empty right now. Like emotionally, I just feel, I don't know, the whirlwind is the best way to put it. But I do have hope, and the reason I have hope is because of the things that took place during the trial. And our court system has an amazing process called the Appellate process, and it's similar to, and I hope I'm not being long-winded, but it's similar to, I typically tell folks, if you encounter a police officer on the street and he's very mean and he's not following what he needs to do, you don't argue with him on the streets. It's a process.
Handle
Right?
it in court.
Correct. And it's the same thing with courts. A lot of you, from what I've seen on social media and things of that nature, are very upset about some of the things you saw, very upset about the verdict, very upset about the way the trial was handled. But the trial isn't the only venue to fight some of these issues. It's the appellate process. So the next step for Mr. Faust is we have to file the motion for a new trial. It's a 30-day window for that. Just getting back in office today, so we'll be out of that file today or tomorrow. Once that's filed, we have to get the appellate attorney. Um, I believe Attorney Brian Steele is the best attorney in the nation. In Georgia, I think he has the highest win rate in the Court of Appeals, but he also cares about his clients. And he cares
Yeah.
about the results he gets. And with the size of Mr. Faust's appellate file, because we have 25,000 documents he has to go through, 25,000 files that include multiple recordings, videos, and things of that nature, but also the trial transcript. Because I believe we had 3 days of hearings for motions, and the trial thing lasted about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So the transcript for those he would have to go through. So it's trying to get appellate counsel, and that's what the fundraiser is for, trying to raise the money to hire Attorney Steele to um, handle Mr. Paulson's appeal.
Good to know, because there's been a lot of questions and retainer fees. I mean, we don't know the specifics of a retainer, but even just a percentage of the total amount of the appeal is a big number. So again, that's why we have a goal. That's why we're trying to get up there to make sure the family can retain, counsel that's really going to advocate, not just someone to me like Brian Steele is not someone that's only going to advocate for the client. They're going to advocate for a change in the case law that might be constraining for future defendants that are trying to fight for their innocence. Certain case law that might constrain someone's right to put on a fair defense, a constitutionally sufficient defense. And I think someone like Steele would be the right person. I was going to say, I think that's one of the major questions is the timeline of the appeal. I know there's going to be a lot of questions in the chat about, hey, there's talk about jurors, plumbing, the talk of the town. Did you hear XYZ? Um, I feel comfortable saying that I'm sure your office has received the information that you need from any buzzings about juror discourse on social media. And if it's relevant, you will be dealing with that on appeal.
Well,
And that could be a
I'll say
blanket
this.
answer, perhaps.
If there are recordings that somebody says they have juror admitting something, um, we don't have that. If that's something someone has and they want to send to us, that's something that we can add to the file. But the way the appeal works is, you know, a counsel reaches out to jurors as well. We will be able to get that information, and we'll reach out to them and talk to them about, making sure there wasn't any outside information that came into deliberations, make sure no one was doing a Google search to decide which way they were going to vote with their verdict. So those are things that are addressed on appeal. I did hear something about some pipes being taken from the sink. I think somebody sent that to me. Um, that isn't accurate. That was not a fact in our case at all, with the pipes being taken from the sink. But the jurors' information, yes, that has come across my desk.
Cool. And I think one thing that comes to mind for me when I heard about the piping, there was a drain removed from the shower area of Tara's bathroom, but that was by law enforcement. They were just trying to check for residual trace DNA. And that was the only thing, just this drain in the bathroom of Tara's bedroom. Whereas
Right.
the rumors that I heard were plumbing elsewhere in the house, that would be, hey, someone knew in advance that they were going to start a fire and try to restrict somebody's ability to get water to put it out, is the rumor that I felt. I thought that was the implication of the rumor that I had seen.
So you are right. In the trial, I do believe they discussed the drain being taken out and the items from there being tested.
Yep. And again, that's a great segue here. So maybe we'll kick some of the evidence stuff to a little bit later, but they get this drain. There's no forensic evidence in that drain linking to Fost. There's no, and it goes beyond just that drain. I watched the trial from gavel to gavel, and I didn't see any forensic evidence that puts Edrick at the house at all.
That's correct. That is correct.
So, and kind of a scary prospect. Now we're trying this case. This was in Athens. I heard you say over on Melanie's channel that it was your first case in that courtroom that you tried over in that area. A lot of people have talked about the Tara Baker case for years and haven't forgotten about it. There was podcast attention that kind of renewed energy for solving the case, who did this over the last few years. How does stuff like that shape your approach to jury selection?
So I'll tell you this. So before I got the call about this case, I had never heard of the tier case. It wasn't until I took the case and I Googled it once we took it and I saw the coverage and I didn't think it was, and obviously I'm out of Atlanta. I wasn't in Athens. I didn't know it was as politically important as it was, right? I think the
Yeah.
DA might have made some mentions about it when he was running for office, at least referencing the Baker family. Um, I heard about the Baker Coleman Act once I got on the case, but in jury selection, what we were looking for were jurors. The key thing were jurors that were not one that had either hadn't heard of the case, or two, when they heard of it, it hadn't been so long, but they weren't individuals that were keeping up with the case. Um, we tried to limit UGA graduates, but obviously, as you know, Athens is full of UGA graduates, so that was a pretty tough prospect, at least for the panel that we had. At least for the panel that we had. And a few other things, but I don't believe I'll be able to talk about those. But those are the two open things that we were concerned about. We wanted to do a questionnaire that we think would have helped us tremendously. We weren't allowed to use a questionnaire in trial, so a lot of our questions were based on the questions within the questionnaire.
Cool.
But pre-trial publicity was something that we were trying to avoid jurors that had been exposed to.
Good to know. I know I saw a few motions on the docket, a little bit more scrutiny on do the potential jurors, do they know anybody that's a witness in this case? Also, the idea of maybe making sure jurors weren't speaking with personnel in the courtroom or that jurors, I know their names were publicly on the docket. I think that might have actually been
Which
taken
was,
down.
which was the
Um,
first time I've ever seen that. And I didn't find that out
I
till
thought it was odd too.
I've never seen it.
So, and unfortunately, I think you can't tell for sure, but I feel like that's something that could have a significant impact on at least one of 12 that's sitting on a jury panel that, hey, this is a high profile case and my name is out there. So I thought that was very unusual too. Everybody in the chat kind of had the same question, like, is that normal? And maybe again, that's your first time practicing over in that courtroom, but I still think it was a bit unusual to see. And I've watched quite a few Georgia trials in different areas. Um, Also,
Yeah,
next thing I want to ask, oh, go ahead.
you go ahead.
I was going to move on to a next question. Cool. So, justice, right? Kind of a loaded term. What does that mean to you in a case where you have a family who lost a daughter, a sister, a friend, a peer, and then your client now has this conviction and this life plus sentence? Like, what exactly does justice mean if you had to give somebody came from an alien planet and said, what is this concept? What would you answer them out of your gut?
Out of my gut, I would say in a criminal case, especially where there's a loss of a life, there are never any winners, right? If you have, and I'll use our case, if you have a situation where you have the family in this case that's gone 25 years without answers, regardless of how the verdict comes down, you know, all their questions still not answered, right? It's still a hole. They're still missing somebody that they love. In regards to Mr. Faust, and I'll say I think our justice system, from what I've been taught, is the best justice system in the world. There's some places you could go and it's much, much worse. But you have a situation where you believe that, hey, this is what the evidence supports, right? We think it strongly supports this. And you get something that's inconsistent with what you believe the evidence supports. So I think justice is a term that, before this case, I might have said, hey, this is the concrete definition of justice. But I believe it depends on who you ask. Because if you ask Mr. Faust, right, he would have a definition of it. If you ask me, I'll have my definition. If you ask the jurors, they'll have their definition. If you ask the prosecution, they'll have their definition. If you ask the family, they'll have their definition. What justice would look like, that I hope it would look like, is that one, the family gets answers, right? They get to know, all right, this is what took place. We're not satisfied about it, but we have our answers. And also, two, the individual that committed the act is held responsible, right? And as an attorney, I respect the system. The jury's verdict is the jury's verdict, right? We don't, it'd be remiss of me to come on here and say, "Oh my goodness, what they did is horrible." I would never do that. So we have to respect their verdict with what they believe the evidence showed, even if we don't agree with it. But that's what the appellate courts are, right? And I think justice in this case, it's just Mr. Faust having a full and fair opportunity for an appellate court to look at what took place in this trial, the evidence that was presented, and saying, "Hey, these are the issues raised. This is what we believe should have happened or did happen." Right? And if it should have happened, we believe Mr. Faust is entitled to a new trial. If we believe it did happen, we're going to uphold the verdict. So it's a fluid term, and I hate to say that, Kat, but it's truly in a situation like this, it's fluid because you have so many systems and procedures in place in the courtroom, and we have to respect those procedures and systems.
I don't know why you hate to say that it's fluid. I think that's actually the point of justice. I think justice is a search for the truth. And, with any journey, you come across obstacles or the weather changes and new information comes across. And I think justice relies on our ability to adapt and take in new information as we search for the truth. And the hardest part, I think human nature, when someone gets it wrong, let alone systemically something's wrong. An entire panel of 12 might have gotten something wrong, and the appellate courts don't want to overturn that lightly. Or an investigator's like, hey, I thought it was this, but it wasn't that. The idea that we can learn something new while we're continuing to search for information and be fluid with how we take in that information and say, you know what, maybe there's another way to look at this. Maybe this idea that DNA doesn't lie. Maybe I'm not applying that framework correctly to the way DNA evidence is being used in a prosecution. And just things like that. I think fluid's actually a very good term to describe justice.
And I'll say
Because,
this. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that was it.
Well, I'll add this. So the way our democracy is set up and our court system is set up, um, it's truly meant to be in the best that it can be, right, for the people. Um, but I think we also have to participate in the system. One of the most difficult things with jury selection for anybody, right? Any clients I've had Asian clients, I've had white clients, Hispanic clients, black clients, Indian clients. And I'm sure any defense attorney would say this. You do want your clients to have a jury of his peers. And that may mean, hey, they work in the same industry, so they'll understand these terms, or they'll understand this situation. Or hey, they have similar backgrounds, so they'll understand, these type of nuances. I think one example I used previously is I think a question was asked about using or making the argument that, or explicitly saying that Mr. Faust was framed, right? I had those thoughts in the trial, but I didn't make those explicit arguments. But it's because certain people, certain jurors, let me use it that way, certain jurors, if they participate in the system, will understand certain experiences that other people may not, right?
Yep.
And it goes both ways. But if you don't participate in the process itself, if you receive a jury summons and you don't show up to jury selection, what ends up happening is we have to pick the best available from what's available, right? Post trial, once I got back on social media, there are a lot of people I would have loved to have been on the jury panel. And not
Yeah.
because of anything they said, but just because of their experiences, right? I've read stuff where people said, "Hey, I had a brother, that was falsely convicted, and his conviction ended up being overturned." That type of juror would know. Well, let me not just trust everything. Let me wait till the evidence is presented, and then let me make my decision. Right? We've seen jurors in other cases. I had a juror that we had a violent crime case. Her brother was the victim of a violent crime, and after that trial, when we spoke to her, she did everything she needed to do because she knew she had that trauma. She did everything she needed to do to say, I'm going to make sure I look at every single piece of evidence. So when I make my decision, it's a decision that's based on evidence, right? In a case like this, um, There were a lot of moving pieces, and we saw an outcome that made a lot of people angry. But to avoid outcomes like that, we all have to participate in the
I
jury
was going to
process.
say it's a good reminder to not the idea of how do you get out of jury duty? How do we avoid this summons? How do we not get stuck? You can make a difference by sitting, and sometimes your jury duty could be a like 1 day misdemeanor trial.
Right.
So you might not get stuck in. A lot of us here have watched the YSL trial, and that was that was a commitment, right? But that's not a typical jury service of that length. It's just not typical. So you will be asked about hardship, how long an estimate for the trial length will be, and if it's too much, let the judge know. But if you can serve, if there isn't a reason why you can't serve, I think it's an incredibly honorable duty to serve. So if you get those summons, try to participate.
And I agree. And I'm not even saying that from a position of privilege because obviously I'm an attorney now, but I was a college student once that used to receive jury summons. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to sit on a jury. But being an attorney and seeing how much power a juror, just one juror has, and a jury as a body has, it is so important. If it's something in your community that you don't like, you could be a voice on the jury to change that, right? If
Yep.
you have a case where there's, let's say, allegation, let me use something different. Let's say you're an advocate, you are a pro animal rights advocate, right? Like I love dogs, I love cats, but let's say I don't like the way my community handles certain things when it comes to prosecution of individuals with dogs or the way they handle their cats. If I'm on the jury, I can let my community know, let my jurors know. We can let them know with our verdict. Hey, we agree with this or we don't agree with this, right? But if you're not there, um, you will be shocked with the result and say, "Oh my goodness, how did this happen?"
How do they not see things the way I see them? Because your voice isn't part of the deliberations. It's not part of the process that leads to the verdict.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Speaking of DNA, if
Mhm.
you had to spell out, what do you think the building blocks, the actual building blocks of the state's case against Edrick were? Like if you put on
Um,
your prosecutor hat.
sure. Exactly what they presented at trial. Just the fact that they had a his DNA profile. I believe to them that was enough. Um, we talked about this case with a lot of folks as we were preparing for trial. We talked to prosecutors about it. We talked to lay people about it, potential, people that could be jurors in the community. Um, and the ones that had a question, the biggest question they always had was his DNA. How would his DNA get there? And that's what the state hung their hat on. Now during the trial, we tried to explain the DNA, but obviously, as you know from the rulings, we were not able to get into one, how would Mr. Faust's DNA get there because we had some evidence we wanted to present in that case. Two, we were not able to argue this. The judge denied us the ability to argue consent in this case. So we knew that was a question that jurors probably wanted answered, but unable to provide those answers because obviously we had to respect the rulings.
All
So
right, so
yes,
this is an
that was the
area
case.
where I have a lot of branching off. So, if we were to take DNA out of the case, what are the remaining building blocks that the state has against your client?
His proximity and the two people the two people that were admitted to evidence seen walking through the neighborhood. That's it. Their case was a three-pronged case. It was his DNA, it was where he stayed in proximity to the house, and the fact that there were black men, and as the testimony showed, that was common because there was a Walmart on the other side. There were black men walking through.
All
That's
right,
it.
so let's jump to those other building blocks and then we'll circle back to questions about the DNA. So,
Sure.
when it comes to proximity, there is a prior arrest, February 8th, 2001, of Mr. Cruz, and his address on that arrest is not 350 Cooper Road. And to me, that's something that contemporaneously that would suggest that law enforcement didn't feel he lived at 350 Cooper Road if they're listing the address on these records as being elsewhere. And it seemed like through some of your questioning, you were trying to ask, I don't remember what, maybe a detective or some law enforcement officer, about awareness that at that point in time, closer to the murder of Tara Baker, there was a different address. Even though the state's theory, they're trying to pitch it on this 350 Cooper Road. So, can you speak on that at all?
Sure. So I'll stick to the limitations placed on court because of the appeal process. But we did want to get into that line of questioning with the witness. I believe it was Agent Bigham, but the state objected, and it was sustained by the court, and that may be something that's raised on appeal. But there was evidence, as you all heard, that credible evidence that when Miss Baker was killed, at least that weekend, uh, the state could account for where Mr. Faust was living. It was not.
And I thought it was a bit unusual anyway because it seemed to me like the state's witness, Ricketts, we canvassed everywhere, but they never mentioned canvassing at 350 Cooper Road, which is a critical location. If you look at the map, the aerial view of the houses, that's the main road. That's the house kind of perpendicular to if someone was leaving the road that Tara's house was on or through the yard behind Tara's house. The outlet for that 350 Cooper Road, the house is right there. So I thought it was pretty interesting that we didn't hear about them canvass and ask anybody at that residence contemporaneously. And maybe that's just
Well,
not
we
something they brought into, but I felt like they would have if they had information.
we talked about it. I believe we talked about it in closing, and we also talked about it with Ricky's. If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken. There's a lot of stuff in this case. Um, but I know one of our points in the trial was that they're saying that this 585 feet means that he committed this crime. But also, if they would have canvassed, and I believe I say this in closing, but if they would have canvassed, they would have gave him an opportunity, either him or someone at the house, to account for his whereabouts. One of our theories, because we had multiple angles with the defense, was that law enforcement dropped the ball in this case, and that was one of those building blocks.
All right, so then I think that's good for proximity. And then the other thing on the flip side, you live in the same neighborhood. If that's a close route to go to, like the hot spots, it could also explain why somebody might bump into somebody and have dealings with one another. Um, for the other bucket, this idea we heard about, I think the descriptions were of two different individuals, not just based on the appearance or based on the sketches that ultimately resulted from the descriptions, but the clothing that they were wearing was just polar opposite. You have orange t-shirt, you have white t-shirt and or maybe a hoodie. We're not sure. And I just don't understand how that could be the same person. But during trial, you had sketches you wanted to introduce that seemed like close to that point in time, but before this happened, there had been reports, someone calling in a tip like, hey, we think there's something suspicious going on. It seems to me, I got the impression that there's call-ins reporting people in an area that might not even be associated with any criminal activity when all is said and done. Is that the case? Like there was more, it was just something that happened all the time that people are reporting seeing black men walking in this neighborhood?
So that may be something that's brought up on appeal. So
Okay.
I won't be able to answer that one just to preserve the integrity of the appeal. But in regards to what I can answer, um, in regards to the testimony that came in, there were three different testimonies. Okay, we had the gentleman that came in and said he saw a guy in a white shirt, blue jeans. We had the young lady, the older young lady, who stated that there was a gentleman with an orange jacket, heavier set in the face. And we showed the sketch. That was a sketch we kept showing the jury because this guy was slender in the face. But she gave a heavier set person, showed the jury that photo. And then we had another person describing a guy, orange shirt. I believe her testimony was hoodie. And we had an exchange about that, or we discussed it with the court. But orange shirt, dark colored pants, or khaki pants, or light pants. I can't remember her exact testimony. But pretty much this person was just walking. No one testified that this person was bloody. No one testified that this person
Holding
had a
equipment.
laptop. Correct. Um, it was just, as the witnesses testified to, this was just a gentleman seen walking, right?
On a sidewalk. Not the
Well, in the
person that
street,
had a
in the
hood.
street,
Oh, in
in
the
the street.
street.
So they were like on the side of the street, and no one had a hoodie, no one had a hat. They weren't trying to conceal themselves, and the two of them were wearing bright orange. very bright orange color. So they weren't even trying to be inconspicuous. They could clearly be seen.
They were so good, they were just hiding in plain sight. I mean, to me, that's something that stood out so much, and I think it's something that a lot of the chat was talking about. And we'll never know what happened in the deliberations room, but I just wonder if
Well,
those types of like little common sense questions got lost underneath. But there's DNA, and this
and that
idea that the DNA is there kind of put all the other common sense questions off the table for consideration.
correct. And in closing, we tried to address it. Obviously, I didn't do a good enough job addressing it, but I told him if you assume that because his DNA is there, he committed this crime, we're presuming criminal intent, we're presuming guilt. Because in order to reach that conclusion, it's not based on evidence, it's not based on facts. It's just the state saying, hey, we're going to charge him with rape simply because his DNA shouldn't be there. Mr. Faust isn't a perfect person, but for things to happen, you don't have to know a person's entire history. You don't have to know their entire life. Um, Hypothetically speaking, not saying this is what occurred in this case, you and I could drink out of this. We could go to the same restaurant, Cat. I could drink a Coke. I could give the glass back. They could not wash the glass good. You could order a Sprite. You could drink the Sprite. Now my DNA is in your mouth, right?
There
You
you
go
go.
home, something occurs, um, and Lord forbid they say, "Hey, Ahmad, you knew Cat, right? She died. These, well, let me not use you. That's a terrible example. But you knew
It's
Jane
okay.
Doe.
Use me so we don't use somebody else.
Well, I use Jane Doe. I don't want to speak that over you. But your DNA is found in her mouth, and I end up in a situation like Mr. Faust. I think the scariest thing about Mr. Faust's situation, and I told the jury in closing, this could be anybody,
Yep.
right? This could be your son, this could be your cousin, this could be your nephew. God forbid that we all weren't perfect citizens for our entire lives, and something happens where our DNA pops up somewhere that we don't expect it, or we do expect it, I don't know. But we end up in a court case, and the entire prosecution against us is, well, we can't say he was in the house. There's no evidence of that. But, we have some DNA that's in this person's body from 30 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 25 years ago. So we want to convict this person, right? I think, as I said in closing, our burden is high for a reason, right? The whole point of the jury bar is to separate the people from the state. When people were dying for our Constitution, they weren't dying saying, hey, we're going to die because we want all the citizens to believe anything the government says. They were dying because they said, look, you all have individual rights. Our government can become very powerful, but we always want you to remember that you have the duty to protect your fellow citizens from the government. Um, and I think this case with the DNA, just to say, hey, the DNA is what showed me that he committed all these horrendous acts. It's tragic. It's tragic.
I think that opens the pathway for two prongs I want to get to. So, one of the things that keeps running in my head, and again, I've watched other trials. I think I have a hyper awareness of things like touch and transfer DNA that maybe a juror who doesn't watch trials for fun isn't really thinking of that. They have the idea that DNA doesn't lie. His DNA was in her. Even worse, his sperm was in her, which is to me is a misstated conclusion that was argued in closing. But that's even more compelling than just saying somebody's DNA is there. If you start saying his sperm was there, his semen was there, now you're moving away from touch and transfer DNA even being a possibility, right? So that's one layer that adds to the mess. But going back to touch and transfer DNA, it's the question of, is it presence? Is it participation? Those are two different things. And if DNA is present, what does that actually mean, and what can that not in and of itself rule out? And is there evidence that DNA being present somewhere corroborates participation in the crimes that are alleged? So this presence versus participation, there's no forensic evidence in the house, which to me takes participation so far. It's like the slightest realm of possibility there is left for participation when there's no other trace evidence, and those individuals are seen walk on the street are supposed to not be carrying any type of backpacks with cleaning equipment. They're not wearing gloves. They don't have their hair covered, but we don't find any African American hairs at the scene. To me, that's what takes it over the edge of just being DNA doesn't lie, but the DNA in this case doesn't convince me, and certainly not beyond a reasonable doubt, that this person that's being tried is guilty. But
Correct.
yet I felt like you weren't able to make an argument about presence of DNA versus participation. And I'm sure that's going to be a major subject of the appeal. But what was in your mind when you were trying to figure out with the witnesses that you were working with the idea that maybe you weren't going, you had plans to call witnesses, but was it always an option that, hey, maybe we won't call witnesses and we'll have to do the damage we can on cross-examination of the state's witnesses? So that'll be first question.
So the team and I, we knew the case very well. We knew it inside and out. So we knew going into the case that the state's witnesses would become our witnesses. The issue with that though is the initial witness list, and I'm sure you all saw it online. I think it was like 22 pages long of people. So we had to be prepared for just about any and everybody. But we knew, hey, if they call these people, we're going to build our case off of these specific people. So when the state was presenting their case in chief, we were also presenting our case in chief, just using their witnesses, turning them into our witnesses. The most powerful witness that they had that we used, and I thought it would be powerful, but obviously it wasn't powerful enough. We turned their DNA expert into our DNA expert, because their DNA expert to us is what pretty much obliterated their case regarding Chris Melton, regarding the DNA in the anus and how long it lasted. Once we got our once we got, because I think the DNA expert was the last expert. Once we finished with the DNA expert, we sat down and talked about, okay, where's the state's case? Because we determined what we're going to do based on our belief. All right, does the state have a strong case? Did they meet their burden? What do we need to get in through our witnesses that it's not already come in, right? But also, what are the ramifications if we do put on a case in chief? I think Melanie said it perfectly. I wasn't going to say it, but she said it. One of the
Rebuttal.
concerns, correct, one of the concerns with the rulings we were getting, we really didn't know. Typically with the law, you know what to expect. I'll put it that way. With the course that this case took, we didn't know what to expect, because we couldn't say, hey, this is what the law says, this is what we're going to do. So we said, look, these are the things we're going to get in. Is it worth a potential rebuttal with X, Y, Z? Right? But because we didn't think the state came close to proving that Mr. Faust committed these acts, it was a conversation with Mr. Faust and the entire team. We were comfortable saying, all right, let's move forward.
I was going to pause for a moment. Guys, somebody just donated $8,000 to the
Oh wow, that is
fundraiser.
amazing.
So
That is
put
amazing.
W's in, it just says anonymous giver. So just put some W's in the chat for the anonymous giver. Also, I see we've got Mary, we've got anonymous giver, we've got Nurse Kimberly Sunflower, I should say. Annie Burgess, anonymous giver, anonymous giver. I see a cupcake. We have Nikia Fouché. Hope I'm saying that right. Britt Happens, Carol DeSalle, Shanikia Young, another anonymous giver. All of this adding up. Anonymous giver, Camille Cupcake, Adrian. Guys, if I refresh this right now, we are at $29,996, $4 away from $30,000. Incredible. Incredible.
It was incredible. It
So
was
loving
incredible.
seeing the flood in the chat here. Also, it's chicken's birthday. Happy birthday, chicken! Since I see it in here.
Happy birthday, chicken.
Heck yeah! Donate for chicken's birthday. It's a great way to celebrate. But look at all of this. Love to see it. How incredible!
That
And
is
going
incredible.
back to what everybody's here for, right? These questions. Back to the DNA. I thought bringing in the research papers on the maximum ceilings of how long, especially couching it, to me you made it clear that we cannot conclude that there was any seminal or partial seminal cells found. And that was based on the contemporaneous testing, but then you had Zachariah Sims say, hey, look, you're right. Even though I said sperm when I was speaking, that's true. We don't actually know. There is no confirmatory test. And you said, hey, are you aware that they actually did a test for semen and found that it was negative. So I thought you did a great job eliminating semen and sperm from the what I could consider. And then when you brought in the research papers, these maximum survival times for DNA in different anatomical areas, a lot of the discussion was framed on if it's in a sperm cell, which has protective layers. So those maximum ceilings were considering it's contained in something that's more protective. So I think it was a very liberal, you went to the maximum ceiling. And still, I did not find a way myself. I did not find a way to take the DNA evidence and fit it within the window of the crime and Chris Melton's statements. Even if we say, yes, he was actually truthful when he says it was last Sunday as opposed to 10 days earlier. And is there a way that you would approach that differently, to do something different to draw and drive that point home? Because to
I
me,
will
it's
tell you,
critical. And I thought it
I
was clear, but maybe it wasn't if we have a conviction.
will tell you this, Kat. Since the verdict, there are a million things I would do different.
Right, I
And I
bet.
know,
Like,
and I know you said you're not an attorney, but I'm sure you've had outcomes where you thought, "Oh, this is amazing, everything is great," and it goes differently, and you go through your head and say, "Man, I wish if I could redo it, I'll do this, I'll do that." And I mean, um, if Mr. Faust would have came home, I would have never thought twice about anything. But I think the fact that a human being is in jail or in prison for something that I don't think the evidence supports that he did, and I'm not the jury, I'm just speaking from the evidence. Yes, absolutely. I mean, any and everything I would have did probably the entire trial differently. Um, but that comes with trial cases. If it doesn't go the way you expect, yes, absolutely, there are things I think that I would have did. Would it have changed the outcome? I don't know. But Monday morning quarterbacking myself, absolutely. I would have tried this. I would have tried it. My wife hears it all day and all night because it's the only thing that's really been on my mind. It's devastating. To get a verdict like that, it is devastating. It's heart crushing.
I think it's important to have, I mean, I know your wife's in your corner as a partner, but I also feel like, based on the little bit that I've heard about your wife watching these trials, and I'm very glad that she was like, hey, go speak with Kat. I'm very appreciative of her for encouraging you to come on and speak with us and the audience over here. But to have people around you, and I'm not trying to encourage an echo chamber. I actually really like disagreement. But in moments where you're like, how did this conviction happen? To have people around that are like, I don't get it either. It I think that's the only thing that kept me grounded when I heard the verdict, is that I was not the only one out there that was just completely floored and completely shocked.
So it's a unique situation. So I'll tell you this: as a attorney, our job is to advocate for our clients, to be the shield and the sword for our clients. So trial attorneys, we live off of verdicts, right? Um, I feel as a trial attorney could probably do a horrible job, but the person goes home, they're satisfied, right? You did your job, the person went home. Um, no matter what type of job you do, if the person does not go home, you're gonna say there are things that I should have, that I
Yeah.
could do differently, that I should have done differently. So I think the hardest part for me is to hear everyone say, "Oh, you did a great job. You did a great job. I don't understand the verdict." Um, but for me, it isn't about the job I do. It's about my client and what happens to my client afterwards. And I think for me, it's caused a bit of um, cognitive dissonance, where it's I'm in this space where it's just my wife is saying, "Hey, you did great." Other attorneys are saying, "Hey, you did great." My mentor even called me and said, "Man, I'm so proud of you." I had amazing attorneys who I admired and respect their work reach out to me and say, "Hey, you litigated your butt off." Um, but I'm hurt for Mr. Falls, so I really can't gauge my performance because regardless of of advocacy. You know, I have a client that has trusted me that is not at home with his family.
Yeah,
So that's the toughest part. That's the toughest.
yeah, for sure. Like, without a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, that is the toughest part. I know you've spoken a little bit that for people looking forward, you talked a little bit about the deadlines for the appeal. Is there an issue that you just like, just to see it go forward, are just really, really hoping is just argued on appeal as a critical issue? Like, oh, I want to
Absolutely.
see the DNA argued, or oh, I want to see sufficiency of the evidence argued. Like, is there just something that's like top of the mountain for you?
Absolutely. My number one argument, and I'm not the appellate attorney as of right now. I don't know if I have the opportunity to work on the case, but this is just from my personal opinion. Okay. Um, I don't know what grounds will be raised, but one, due process. It is very rare that you see an argument raised that a client was denied due process in a case. That is one that I would like to see argued. Two, the fact that Mr. Faust was deprived of arguing consent. I believe 412 was used a lot of ways in this case. And, of course, we respect the rulings. But my understanding of 412 is completely different than the way it was used in this case. 412 is a character evidence rule that prevents you from trying to attack the sexual character of the person by saying, hey, in the past they did XYZ, so I'm not guilty, or this is the type of person that this individual was sexually. In this case, or in Mr. Foss's case, I believe, this is my personal opinion, I believe it was used to deprive him of defenses that had nothing to do
Ah, that's the chat already knows. So anyone that's been watching with me already knows that I just want to see the 412 issue revisited. I
with it.
understand how it's such an important thing. I mean, especially with trials where the victim's still alive, you don't want to give a chilling effect to a victim just
Correct.
because, hey, if we prosecute somebody, you're going to have to put your entire reputation and
Correct.
your name on blast and let everybody denigrate you because it could be a
Correct.
public trial. So I
Correct.
understand why it's there. But then how do you balance making sure there's protections for a victim, but also allowing somebody who's charged with something like rape to be able to fight one of the key elements of rape, which would be the consent issue? And it to me, it's just not compatible. And unfortunately for me, I would say I think we should constrain how it's written because I don't think that anything should supersede somebody's right to fight for what would ultimately completely rob them of their freedom. We have
Correct.
to be certain when we take away someone's freedom. But thank you for being able to answer that. And again,
Correct.
guys, that's just a pontificating, right? It's not the actual or current appellate strategy. If you had to look back now, what would your biggest, like, personal takeaway from this case as a trial lawyer be? Like, is there something that gave you a new outlook on life and dealing with conflict in general?
So I'm still emotionally raw from this case. I am very emotionally raw from this case. The best way to put it has opened my eyes to a lot of things that before I may have been blind to. And I'll put it that way. So
So
I
go in the
have a,
opposite. I would say go in the opposite direction. Like, hey, you might not be aware of everything that's out there in your daily life. If we put the lawyer hat back on,
mhm,
and seeing, because you said when you're in trial, you're in a bubble.
correct.
You're
No
not hearing
TV,
us out
no social
here.
media. Mhm.
Yeah, have no
Um,
idea.
what's going on? The only thing that I do during trials, and I'm not a TV person anyway. I work. I'm probably in the office all the time. My job is my hobby. I love what I do. But in trial, because trials are so exhausting, I'm just pretty much in court and I go home, I work, I sleep. If I go to the gym, I go to the gym, but that's it. I don't, trials aren't a time for me to entertain myself in any type of way.
So you get out of the bubble, you see all the reactions, or I'm sure not literally every piece, but you've gotten the general gist of it. There's been some tough criticism for you out there, and I think any party in a high profile case is gonna people are gonna keyboard warrior away. Um, But with all the criticism out there, have you taken any of that into account? And is there something that you would do differently because of the criticism that you've seen online?
So one of the things that my mentor told me is that when you try difficult things, there's always going to be criticism, right? Um, so I don't take the praise to heart. I don't take the criticism to heart because I can't remember who said the quote, but I'm in the arena, right? I'm the one, our team, Wilson, Abigail, Dr. Dawson, Attorney Hill, we're the ones prepping the cases, knowing the discovery, sacrificing our lives as far as our free time to prepare these cases for trial. So when I go in, whatever we decide to do, I'm in the arena, right? So of course I'm gonna have cheers, of course I'm gonna have boos, but my job is to focus on Mr. Faust. So I don't take it to heart either way, the good or the bad.
How is it, you know, I always wonder, are there moments where, and this might not be particular to Foss, but are there moments where you as an attorney, you might be down and your client's like, nah, man, forget about that. F them. Like, are there ever those moments where the client's the one like pep talking the attorney?
Listen, Mr. Faust is one of the most amazing people. Evans is really suffering a loss for the time he's not in the community anymore. Because there were times in the trial where I would say, "Oh my goodness, X, Y, and Z," and he would say exactly what you said. You know, forget about it. We're doing what we need to do. Let's keep going, right? But he also appreciated, it. And that was the golden thing because there were times where, I would say, "Hey, this is unfair," and not trying to be rude or trying to be mean, but just being truthful. Mr. Foster shared some things with me, said, "Okay, X, Y, and Z." So yeah, absolutely, absolutely, we're human at the end of the day. We're absolutely human, and we're responsible for someone's life. So we take that duty very seriously.
Good to know. And it's weird because I actually had one of my questions written down is when you're taking hits in real time. And I'm like, let me change it because he just gave the arena metaphor. And I'm picturing like the fight a little bit like boxing. And in a way, I think trials, cases, litigation, I think it's great. It's sparring. It's like mental sparring. Sometimes it's with pen and paper, sometimes it's with words. But it's really a way to keep the mind sharp. Um, and I think trials are dynamic, you know, every trial. And this trial, I think there were some serious inflection points. Right in your opening statement, you get hit with this contempt, which, I'm checking. I'm gonna follow any updates on that over on the Georgia Supreme Court docket. Mid trial, mid witness, you're getting all these adverse rulings. Objections are being sustained left and right. I mean, where did you feel like your biggest pivot was in this case, where you had to just call an audible, you had to do something different because the adverse ruling or comment or something happened?
Just realizing that Mr. Foss's life was in my hands. I was fighting for someone who couldn't fight for himself. Um, so when those rulings were coming, it was just more so. My thought process was it's the jury that decides this case. Be respectful and just keep moving forward. We knew our case. Again, we knew the case front to back. The state spent a good amount of time defending Chris Melton, so we did have him on the defensive. So it's just more so I wanted to make sure Mr. Foss was comfortable, but I also did not want to get distracted from my goal or our goal. This is a team effort. All the work that Wilson put in, Abigail put in, Dr. Dawson put in, but our goal of getting Mr. Foss home. So that was the biggest pivot. Just, you know what, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to focus on our case and getting our evidence out.
Now, one pivot that stood out to me, um, and really I didn't really realize it until the state rested, and then you were weighing, there were some motions in limine before you were supposed to call witnesses. We knew you were going to call witnesses because you were talking about the Zoom coordination with the court, but then you decided to rest. I went back to opening statements and I'm like, Cruz volunteered to the jury, like trying to get ahead of some bad character evidence that would come in through Brenda Swinney, who you stated that you expected the state would call, and then the state doesn't call her. And to me, that's kind of like you step on something, it hits you in the face, and now you've just got to deal with it because you can't go back and change your opening statement. Um, is there a way, like, do you wish you could go back to opening statement and like just nix that part from your opening?
So that's a great question, actually. So, one of the things when it comes to trials, you want to get ahead of that. And my biggest fear is to know that we may have some bad facts that are coming in, and it shocks the jury, right? I think in opening in regards to Miss Sweeney, we thought she was an important piece of the state's case, and that played a role in, as Melanie said, rebuttal witnesses and our decision not to call any further witnesses. But I would rather them hear what her testimony would be from me, the good and the bad, as opposed to hearing it from the first time on the stand. I think we mentioned someone else, the jailhouse individual. We mentioned him in opening as
Cedric
well.
Jeffries.
I would rather them hear it from me and up front and know this is coming, as opposed to just being a shock. Does that make sense? So when they didn't call him, it didn't play a huge role in our processes or anything of that nature, because the instruction given to the jury is that they are only to consider the evidence that came in at trial. I would hope no one in the jury room said, "Hey, you remember that attorney's opening or the defense attorney's opening when he said X, Y, and Z? That's the reason I'm voting guilty." Right?
Because it's not
Um,
evidence, it's argument, but then it's
right.
human nature. Like, you heard it, you might be fixating on it. I think you get anchored by opening statements, and you might even get anchored by the questions you're asked during the voir dire process, right? Because some voir dire, I think people think voir dire might just be, are you aware of any conflicts? Can you sit this trial out? Would it be a financial hardship? Can you assess evidence fairly? But sometimes voir dire, you can give a sample of what is about to be presented at trial and start kind of sowing some seeds. So the anchoring starts not just with closing, but sometimes even the voir dire process. So if you try to get ahead of something on one hand, but then that thing doesn't actually come in, well, now you've gotten ahead of a problem. You've introduced the problem. And now you've left things in open air and they've heard it. And someone might be trying to hear what you're trying to put down and they just don't get it. And I think that's especially, I was like, dang, that sucks. It's really the one thing in this trial where I was like, he mentioned it. Cruz mentioned it because he anticipated the state putting Brenda on the stand. And I'm an open book when I hear someone, they're being interrogated, they're being interviewed and questioned by police for a long time. They're starting to feel ill. Maybe they're dealing with some health issues. The pressure's getting to them. And then they come out with something crazy like, it came to me that somebody set a house on fire and took the television. I watch so many trials where we have these unreliable statements to police. Sometimes the defendant themselves making a confession that's against themselves. And I don't put that much weight into it. But what if a juror was only slightly paying attention and just heard, yep, I knew that he set a house on fire and stole a TV, and maybe she's confused with TV and laptop. And I can't imagine the pressure of being an attorney and not being able to go back in time and change strategy. So I think it's amazing that you can keep it going.
But you have to
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
You have to one, and trial is like a sport. Is similar to any sport. You have to game plan for the you have to game plan for the state, just like the state has to game plan for us. Um, I don't know. I'll say this. I think the appeal process gives the court opportunity to address it. But also there's a presumption, and I always give jurors this presumption, even though I may not agree with the verdict all the time, but there's a presumption that jurors follow the instructions given to them by the judge as far as what to consider, um, and what not to consider.
Right, so I'm going to let's steer us back to DNA because I'm anticipating we might hit this chat takeover goal. We are at 31,300. And remember, if you guys hit that 33, the chat takes over with the questions. Lightning
And I'll
round.
say this. I'll do 33 people. I'll do questions from 33 people, so that's a lot of questions. but I have about 30 minutes left.
Oh,
So if we can hit it in within the 30 minutes, I'll take the time, however long it takes, to do the 33 questions, if that's
there you
fair.
go, chat. That's the deal. That is the deal. And you seem to be a man of your word.
So,
While we see if that plays out, let's get through these DNA questions because it's a lot, right? I think you did a great job explaining and getting on the record the difference between presumptive. Um, I know you talked about this over on Melanie's channel, but can you tell anyone that's listening here that might not have heard it? Were you prepared to call a DNA expert, and did you consult with the DNA expert prior to trial?
so we consulted with one. Our intention was to use the state's DNA expert as our expert. We thought it would be more powerful because we didn't pay for the expert. They weren't called in on our behalf.
And I would say, I think if I had to give you a criticism, I would say that's a state employee. So their DNA experts are state employees that are dealing with state. The word crime is uttered. That's an input, right? They're already tunnel vision. That input is tunnel vision through a state lab, state employee, who all know that this information is being sent there. DNA doesn't lie, but that input, it's human input. It's
Yeah.
confirmation bias in a way. The DNA, timestamps, time frames. This fire testimony, do you feel like there is a constrained window for the time that a fire started? Because I went into this trial thinking a fire is engaged, it's going to just engulf pretty quickly. And then the state's expert helped me realize, hey, that's actually not true. And then the chat, and this is the type of thing that a juror could be very helpful for if they've had this experience. Someone in the chat was like, hey, there was a fire at my uncle's house once. He thought he put a cigarette in the ashtray on the nightstand. It fell off the nightstand or the dresser and it fell on the floor. And it took about 5 hours for it to actually catch and ultimately like engulf. And so learning through all of that, I'm like, oh man, this means that this fire could have started at like 6 in the morning. Who knows? And I don't feel like I have a clear understanding of when the fire started and if the fire happened at the same time as all the other crimes. What if someone went back and started the fire afterwards?
That was
But
a part of the reasonable doubt analysis that we had. Because I don't, I think the fire expert, I think the fire expert admitted that the test he was discussing had nothing to do with Tara Baker's case. It was just a test they had done, I think, back in 2001, 2002, that wasn't connected to her case. He was brought in to testify about that. But that was one of the issues that the state, and I'll say it this way, that we both brought in through circumstantial evidence, right? Our position through testimony was that it was this white guy seen running through the backyard at 7:45. The state's position was that it was, I believe they wanted the jury to believe there was one black person, but it was black people walking through the neighborhood around 8 to 8:30. So the jurors from circumstantial evidence would have been authorized to say either at the worst, the fire started before. Does that make sense?
yep.
It was just a slow burning fire. So that was something that came in through circumstantial evidence. But that portion, how long the fire took to burn, for us, that wasn't a important portion of our case. The biggest portion of our case, as you all heard throughout the case, was that the evidence just didn't support that Mr. Faust committed this crime. It actually strongly supported that Mr. Melton.
Yeah, and in a way, the state argued that the presence of your client's DNA undoubtedly means participation in the crime.
Yeah, yeah.
But for Chris Melton, it was just because his DNA was present doesn't mean it's participation in the crime. And to me, there was no theory except there were no issues in the relationship. I didn't have the impression that there were not issues in the relationship. I thought it was very suspicious that there's these 5 calls right before its birthday week. You know, I've been in the position where I'm trying to break up with somebody and they're like they try to hang on harder and you get those calls and it's your birthday and they realize you have plans with other people for your special day and not them and they start to realize that's not you're not in the same relationship that we used to be. Things are actually falling apart. It's the reality check. So for me it was not difficult to imagine a situation that the night before these crimes, someone had a serious reality check that maybe this relationship is over. Um, but is there a way, like, is there a way that you would drive that point home stronger if you could do a redo? Or do you feel it was stuff that you were constrained on speaking about?
As I heard the question, but it froze a little bit when you were ending that your statement. Say that end portion.
So, is there, if you could do a redo, would you
Mhm.
approach your attack on the everything is honky dory between the victim and the third party culprit? Or was it just you were constrained by adverse rulings from doing so? Or a little bit of both?
So I can tell you the places that I think we were the only thing that we weren't able to get in, and the reason I can speak about this because it was obviously shown during the trial were the phone records. I think the phone records would have built on top of what we were already building. But I do think the roommates, although initially, they gave the state the testimony they wanted, I think the roommates helped us establish the nature of the relationship, especially I don't want to say her name, but one of the roommates in particular, with a statement such as "It's like somebody knew we weren't there." It was the ending. Watching their relationship was like the normal ending of a relationship. Were there things that we could not discuss? Yes. But those may be things that come out during the appeal process in this case. But as
Well,
far as how deep we were able to go into the relationship, everything that we were able to admit, we're able to discuss with the witnesses in front of the jury.
right, and this is going to take us on a DNA docket dive. Can you walk us
Sure.
through the timeline of like really pre-trial matters? 'Cause I think that's how we got here that relate to the DNA partial profile match around I think the request for retesting was February 2024.
Mhm.
The hit came back on April 30th, 2024. And then we have a whole series of events with talking to Melton and, getting these warrants. Can you kind of like break that down for us and how it relates to the fruit of the poisonous tree argument you guys filed before trial?
So I won't get into that because that may be something on appeal.
I'm
But
excited to
anything,
hear that.
absolutely, anything that came out in the trial, I have no issue with explaining. Or in the pleadings, 'cause I do think it's a transcript out for the motions hearing. So I'll talk about that. Just certain points I won't touch. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Um, the fruit of the poisonous tree argument, as you might have seen in the filings, it was an argument that was obtained. It was illegally obtained. And because of the way, not the search warrants, excuse me, the arrest warrants were based on this illegally obtained evidence, the search warrant shouldn't have been issued, and in turn, Mr. Faust's statements should have been suppressed. Does that make sense? Did I explain that clearly? I want to make
So
sure I'm not.
this so if an appellate court were to agree with, like, again, this is a very, if you guys prefer to hear it read out loud, you can revisit the arguments in that motion. But if the appellate court was to agree and just say, all right, we think it was fruit of the poisonous tree, the impact that that would have, it seems like you're explaining that this interview where he says, I didn't know her, he denies knowing Tara.
Doesn't come in.
And to me, that's a critical piece because I pay attention. I want to know why people think he's guilty, and it's the DNA doesn't lie. He denied knowing her when obviously he must have known her if you think that the DNA is participatory DNA rather than it's present because of touch or transfer. And then he the proximity of the house of 350 Cooper. Um, and then he didn't give us an explanation himself, which gets into the idea, the
Burden
expectation
shifting.
where, yeah, and you want to see sometimes jurors expect to see the defendant take the stand, and it might not be clear that they don't have to, no matter how many times you say it. But I think that would be critical. So the pathway that we got this, if that interview was suppressed, I think you might have a totally different trial because you take away two of the critical pieces that I saw argued online.
I agree with you.
And it's something that I've just been marinating on. And it's why sometimes I wake up mad and start up a stream early, and I'm like, today we're going to read this Fruit of the Poisonous Tree motion. So if you guys, if you're interested in that and want a little bit more details, go check out that motion. I
So
think
it's like,
also,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it's you talking about the fundraiser?
No, I was about to make a statement, but go ahead. You've
Okay, I
allowed
would
me to
say we're
talk
up
so
to
many times.
31. We're up to
Okay.
31,670. So we are very close. And I think we have 20 minutes left with you before we have to meet this goal for you to commit to 33 questions. So if we can do it in 20 minutes, chat, we've made an incredible amount of progress with the fundraiser. And again, it started with Melanie's stream as well. So a lot of this is coming from the cupcakes. But this is incredible. Either way, even if we don't hit the goal.
It is. It is.
But if
Oh,
we
and I
hit
want
the
to say this. You text me about a person that did a fundraiser, and I wish if I
Nick
would have
Starro,
known, I would have joined Mr. Sorrow. And I wanted to ask you if you get a chance, can you text me his number? I would love to just
will
tell him
do.
thank you. Thank
Will do. I'll get your email for him. He lives in Sweden, so I don't know if that would be a easy phone call
you. Well, I
exchange,
emailed
but I'll
him.
get an email.
That's fair. Okay,
So there
that is
you go.
fair.
Isn't that cool though? You got someone in Sweden here, all
That
in.
was really nice. That was very nice.
So,
Very kind.
oh, and it is going up. These numbers, it's just amazing to see. Amazing to see these numbers go up. Um,
Wow.
Another thing, so the state to me emphasized how much evidence they collected. They do all of this stuff. It's so great. Our stuff is so amazing. We investigated everybody. And then there was a point in the trial where you were attempting to ask about a report that mentioned alternative suspects and persons of interest at the time. And your purpose was not to point the finger and say these alternative suspects, besides Chris Melton, are the ones that could have done it. Your purpose was to get into the nature of the investigation and how the investigation was proceeding contemporaneously. And that was an adverse ruling for you. You weren't able to go down that pathway. But can you give us just like a top level strategy on why an attorney might do that in a case?
Sure. So the police's investigation is the top and bottom of a case, right?
Oh, hold on. Answer this question and then the chat's taking over. They did it. Oh my God, chat. That's
All right.
crazy. They're yelling at me. They're like, I don't think she realizes. So while you answer, I'm just going to flash all these on screen to celebrate.
And would you like to pick the 33 or however you like to do it? We'll just pick, you can pick 33 and I'll answer them. But the investigation was the top and bottom, is the top and bottom of the credibility of any case. And we thought the investigation was important to show that despite Chris Melton being a person that they testified to repeatedly, that they looked into. Well, you know what? Let me stop there because where I'm about to go may end up being an appellate issue. So I'll just say the investigation was very important just to show the credibility of the officers, and we wanted the jurors to question the investigation.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I think what Erica's telling me is I pinned a chat that said 33,175 and I didn't realize it was 33. I did not realize when I pinned it. I just saw a number update and I was like, boop, let me just put the update on the screen. And it did not
Well,
process.
I am a man of my word, so I am ready for these questions. If I can answer them, I will answer.
All right, and guys, you know the rule. If he can't answer or doesn't want to answer, he's just gonna say pass or plead the fifth or whatever you want your motto to be when you want to pass on a question. Uno reverse, whatever. You guys know the drill. But let's go. Thank you for the celebrations in the chat, and don't stop there, guys. Remember, we're gonna keep fundraising all the way through. But let's see. We're gonna start looking for questions. So here's one from Burley Kev who says, "Did you think the court was unfair to you?" I'm not sure if we can get into that.
So as an officer of the court, I have to respect the court. I have to respect the parties of the court. But that is something that that may be addressed on appeal.
Okay. We've got Gloria Smith says, thanks for being a member. Did you see Chris' fingerprints that were taken?
We asked the jury to look for that. I don't recall them ever presenting fingerprints into evidence.
Interesting. And that was my take from the closing. We have Destined to Be says, Mr. Cruz, what are you doing for self-care?
That is an excellent question. So I truly love the work I do. I took a couple of days off from the trial just to spend time with my newborn baby and my wife. Um, but I don't know. I think working, helping Mr. Faust, helping our other clients accomplish their goals. That'll heal me the best. That'll be my self care. So just trying to keep going. I took a day to feel how I needed to feel about everything that took place, but it's a lot of people I'm responsible for, and I have to take care of.
Awesome. Congrats on the new baby.
Thank you.
Yeah, I heard that little detail. I was like, oh, I didn't know. So amazing. This one, and if you're willing, because I think that's three questions. Can we do a freebie? Because I think this is an important question
We
to get
can.
off your chest.
We can.
Can you address? It was a victim impact statement, and we heard Fost apparently pistol whipped somebody. Can you set that record straight? I think that's very important.
Sure. Um, so I'll say this. You know, that's not true. I believe I said it in court to the judge. I would address that. That wasn't true. Um, but I think they've been through a lot. Mr. Faust's family is going through a lot now, but they've been going down this road or been on this road for 25 years. It is nothing I would ever take away from the Baker family in expressing their grief, their anger. They lost somebody that was truly amazing. Reading this case file, learning about Miss Baker, I think she was an amazing soul. So I don't know. Someone may have told them. I'm not sure, but it's they're managing a lot.
Yeah, I saw it in a Reddit post before sentencing, so I figured maybe the family member just picked up on it as chatter
Yeah.
somewhere out there in the
That
ether.
isn't anything that I've ever seen in this case.
And guys, my caveat when telephone game happens, imagine being someone's loved one and actually thinking that this type of behavior affected somebody and thinking that that happened to someone that you know. So sometimes the telephone game, maybe someone's saying it because they think someone's a bad person and wants to see them get convicted. But if it's not true, someone now has the vision of someone if they knew this woman who's supposed to have been pistol whipped, now they're imagining that. That's kind of a heavy thing to imagine. So not being critical with information, not having discernment, whether something's true or not, what we believe to be true can impact us in ways that really weigh on us. So we got to be careful with our information. We've got other questions here. This would be number 4 since the last one was me. When was Fost DNA, I guess, initially entered in CODIS? And if 2001, why no match until 2024?
That's a great question. I don't think I can answer the CODIS piece of it. That may be a portion of the appeal. But the second portion, why no match until 2024? That is a great question. That was a question that the jury had to wrestle.
All right, well, let's see. Well, this is 2 questions here. Um, I'm not sure if you can really speculate on why they were protecting Chris, but you can answer the second one for sure.
I can. I received a call from a family member of Mr. Faust's. She was very concerned. Um, she was just very concerned, and her story was very compelling to me. When she spoke to me, I just asked her if she'll give me time to think about it. Um, she was very persistent, and after talking to her, I pray. I believe in God. I prayed about it, and I told her just give me time to think about it. And after talking to individuals in my circle, um, we agreed to help him. Now, I will say what the case became, I never expected in 1,000 years. Um, I never expected the case to be what it turned into. But that's why we took the case. Just he had a very good family member that called me, that talked to me. She allowed me to think on it. She was very persistent. She was a loving and caring person for Mr. Paul, so she really knew.
I love to hear that. Shout out to that family member. Created by EJF says, does Mr. Foss know how many new supporters he has now?
I don't think he knows how many, but he knows he has a lot because one of the things that started happening towards the end of trial, he would come in and he would say, "Hey, I have all of these people messaging me. Their cupcakes." He mentioned Melanie's name, so he does because he was telling us at the table mornings when we were getting started. He would be talking to me about the items that he was receiving.
Also, before we
Thank
go
you all.
to,
You all are
bef-
amazing.
before we go, actually, let me see if I can just, well, I'll do it at the end of the questions, but would you be willing to stay on to read through the comments from the donations that came in through
Sure.
the last hour or
Absolutely.
two? Because I
Sure.
want to give a special shout out. I just saw that Sandy Cadet donated 1,500, and that's, I think, really got us to that 3,300.
All
So
right.
W's in the chat. Well, let's not spam W's though, because I'll lose the questions. But
Easy,
mentally,
man.
thank you. um, Chicken says, "What do you summon to give you strength to continue being polite when you're being beaten down?"
The fact that I'm responsible for somebody's life. Um, I
So it's
think the
not just
wrong
like
thing.
pinch your between your hands and.
No, now I'll tell you. I don't do any pinching or anything. That's actually some good advice. I probably need to start doing. But it's really caring for your client, because if something becomes personal, you lose sight of what you're there to do. And I would never want any family member or any client to say, "Hey, you know, this happened because you lost sight of, you know, your job was to protect me, but instead you started fighting with the prosecutor, right? You started insulting the prosecutor, you started fighting with the judge, you started fighting with court personnel." So I always remember that I have to be the shield. I have to get hit with the rocks for the client. And that just keeps me focused on what I'm there to do. And that's to try to get Mr. Faust or any other client home.
All right, question 8 is from Ashen Sugar, who says, "In a roundabout way, do you think judicial decisions, rulings, actually help with giving you so much appellate content, issues for appeal?"
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see once the court step in.
All right, we've got question 8 here from Mason B. Says, "Was there a glove in evidence with Melton's DNA?"
No, there was no glove in our case.
Cool. I actually appreciate questions like that because I think it's nice to put certain things to rest if that's floating out in the ether. Um, I'm gonna remix CMT because I know that it was your wife that was watching trials as Mrs. Cruz, but rather than did you, just meaning you personally, with Mrs. Cruz help, did you use any internet, anything on the chat, any emails, correspondence that your firm may have received for guidance with maybe what the jurors were thinking, could have been thinking?
Not that I'm aware of. The only place I got inspiration from was obviously, well, emails. Yes, I want to change the answer. Yes, a lot of people were emailing me. So after court, I would check my emails, and I would have we have this forum on our website. People would send stuff, and I kept receiving messages about Karen Reed and how this case was similar to Karen Reed. And as you all know, a piece of our our closing argument, we used a piece from Attorney Jackson and other attorneys too. I used a bunch of inspirations, but Attorney Jackson, that was because of things that people were emailing to the office.
Love to hear it. I think this is 10. Chat's going to have to help me keep count because I'd be losing count so quickly. Nurse Juju says, "Did they show the sketch in the newspaper on the news?" And I guess it would be sketches.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, that'd be interesting because they obviously, if I feel like if it was in the case file that there were tips that came in from the sketches, that would show that the sketches were out there. But if there were no tips, were the sketches out there? We've got, let's see. Um, let's see. YSL Kel says, "Did you watch Lil Woody testify in YSL?" I mean, you can expand that. I mean, did you watch the YSL trial at all?
I didn't watch the whole trial, so I was there the
It's
first
a
day.
lot.
Yeah, I was there the first day. I got to watch opening statements. But a lot of stuff went viral. I saw a lot of the viral posts from his testimony.
And this is clarification. Did you have any client that was involved in the YSL indictment ever? Did you ever represent anybody?
I did not. I did not.
But Justin
Attorney,
Hill.
correct. He had someone that was in the White House.
Okay, so there you go. I didn't count that one. I'm cheating here. Let's see. Oh, this is a tough one. If you plead the fifth, you plead the fifth. Do you have any regrets about the jury you picked?
Now, I believe we picked the best jury that was available. But one thing I do think is important in the message that I shared with you all earlier, it is very important that everybody participates in the jury selection process. I think out of all the jurors. I think we had maybe a panel of 70 or 78. I can't remember the exact number. Um, but we didn't have a lot of jurors that were from Mr. Faust's neck of the woods. I'll say that.
Did you use up all your strikes?
We did.
I think that was from me. I'll count it as a 13 if we need to use one because I'm putting in all these freebies. Um,
You don't have to. That's fine.
Sweet. Look how nice he is. So we're still at 12. Um, Amama Magazine, Amama Magazine on her channel covers missing children and updates on the cases,
All right.
whether someone's found or there's prosecutions, criminal prosecutions, is
That is
asking,
very
would you ever want to become a judge?
the best saying I have for that, and thank you for your amazing work, um, is I enjoy being a player much more than I would enjoy being a referee. I like being in the courtroom. I like bringing the cases. I like litigating. So I'm not sure. I don't think I would want to be a referee.
Okay, you cooked a little bit with that answer. We do some effects sometimes. Okay, so we've gotten also, I highly encourage the chat's coming up with answers on their own to questions. So for those that are listening, if you want to see what the chat's saying, they're giving some creative and thoughtful answers in the chat. We have, let's see. Ooh, and I think there's actually a challenge to this here. So, question 13 is from Elaine Piercy, who says, why was Fost DNA the only found, no victim's DNA? How can that happen unless they planted his DNA? I think this is a great opportunity to correct some stuff.
Sure. So there was testimony in the case, if I recall. Um, and let me say this because that may be an issue for appeal. I don't want to put a statement on record that's mistaken, but that may be an answer that comes out. But there is a way where that is possible. Okay. Um, I'm gonna err on the side of caution. I'm on the
All
side of
right,
caution.
we are pleading on that one. um, oh, cool. Moses is asking, can he send a chess set to Mr. Cruz so he can deliver to Mr. Fost? Can stuff like that be sent?
I don't know if I can send a chess set, but unfortunately, once Mr. Boss is moved, because right now he's in the Clark County Jail. Once he is moved, uh, you could put money on his books like commissary, and he could be able to buy those type of things. I don't know if I'll be able to send it to him.
There's got to be like a pre-approved list of stuff or something, right? There's like
Well, I think they sell it
procedures.
in. I think they sell it in the facility. And obviously, we're hoping that he's not there long enough to play chess. That is our hope. But if it's something that they would like to send to him, it's best to send him commissary, and he will be able to purchase it.
Well,
But thank you,
great.
Mr. Dupree.
Yeah, great initiative there from Moses, and thanks for educating us a little bit on the process of how that how that would transpire. We have Sirach here saying, I think this would be question 14. The chat's going to yell at me and say I have it wrong. How long after submitting the motion for a new trial does there have to be a hearing?
Just once the attorney, well, either once the attorney is ready to proceed, or the judge says, "Hey, we have to move forward." Because of the size of Mr. Foss's discovery file and case file, excuse me, case file and trial transcripts, I think his motion for new trial may take a bit of time for the attorney to get acclimated. If I have the opportunity of working with Attorney Steele on the case, obviously I already know the discovery portion of the case, so it would cut down the time because then we only have to focus on the transcripts and the.
Cool to know. And we're hoping that if the family wants steel, they can get steel.
Absolutely.
Quality doesn't come cheap. And I think with nationwide coverage, prices went up for Mr. Steele. We have, let's see, next question. I see a lot of congrats because I'm a little bit behind. I'm like 10 minutes behind looking for questions, but a lot of congrats on the baby here from the chat.
Thank you.
We have Samantha says, what do you do in your free time if you get free time?
I like to. There's two things I do. I either work or I spend time with my family. Um, yeah, that's it. I have some very good friends. We don't get to spend a lot of time together because of the demands from work. We try to talk every day or every other day. But my goal is just really spending time with my family, reading, and working. Like I said before, my job is my hobby. I truly enjoy it.
Well, we caught that line. Like, I used to love coming to court every day or work. Maybe you said work. I don't know if you said work or court. Okay, let me see. This is a question here from Sarah Juror 13. Says, do you think if you did put on a case and they went for rebuttal, they would have brought in the ex-girlfriend and the jailhouse snitch then?
Possibly, yes. That was our
Okay,
thought process.
interesting. So I think that was 16. Um, all right, and this is kind of procedural because we don't know how this has to go down. Oh, Felicia says, is it possible to rerun the DNA privately?
Yes.
Cool. One thing I saw, if an indigent defendant needs a DNA test on appeal and then it doesn't help move their case forward, they have to pay for the test after the court. They have to reimburse the court for paying for the test if it's not
Uh,
helpful.
that's
I,
terrible.
yeah, isn't it? I don't remember what I was reading over the weekend, but I was like, oh man, that could deter some people from trying.
That would be terrible.
So we have Bank Bin One says, if Tara just got out the shower, why is Chris' hair on the butt?
I think that's more of a statement that we all agree with.
Yeah, rhetorical. Yeah, I agree. Um, oh man, don't get. All right, so chat, you can answer this one, chat, but we're not going to have an attorney that practices in these areas. And I don't know
Well,
if
I'll answer that one. I think
cool.
one of the best judges that you could ever practice before is in Fulton County. I'm gonna have two, and not because I practice. I'm naming two because I practiced specifically before these judges and I've seen them rule. But the Honorable Judge Robert McBurney is one of the most amazing just judges I have ever been before. He reminds you of a television judge because he's very by the book. He's straightforward. He is one of the judges that if he rules against you, even if you think you're right, you know you're wrong because he explains a lot. He teaches you as he's making his rulings. The Honorable Judge Shakira Ingram. She is I admire. She's amazing. She's similar to Honorable Judge McBurney in regards to the way she follows the law. I think the best judges are the judges that teach you in the process. So Fulton is there's some amazing judges in Fulton. There's some amazing judges in Fulton. Um, I can't speak poorly about Athens. I've had one experience in Athens. There are multiple judges in Athens. So I don't think, my experience in Athens would give me enough to say that, Athens is a terrible place. I don't know. I've just had one experience with one judge, one person.
All right, love to hear it, and maybe catch you in the McBurney stream chats one day, watching one of his cases, one of his courts. So, um, we've got Mason B. This would be 18. Says, do you feel it was unethical for the DA to say you would lie to walk your clients out the door? Did we
So that
have
may
that
be an
specific
issue.
statement?
So that may be a issue on appeal. So I won't comment.
All right, we'll pass on that one. Let me look for more questions. Goddess says, Cruz, how many motions you filed?
I have no clue. For any issue that we found, we tried to file a motion for. I know at one point the judge said I filed 60 motions. I don't know if how many we filed after that, but at least based on what the judge said, I would say at least 60.
There we go. And it was a pretty loaded docket. Let's see. 19 here from Tommy. Does Ian know how much attention has been brought to his keys? When did he learn of the support he has?
A few days before the end of trial. I think once the courtroom started packing after opening, more people started reaching out to him. But the support that you all have brought, thanks to Cat Not Williams and other streamers as well, and the messages he started receiving and the commissary he started receiving on his books, I think he started realizing just how much support he had. I think at one point he told me someone messaged him that he had like 30,000 supporters.
Oh, oh, that's super awesome. We've got, let's see. Well, I think this is going to be similar to the previous question about the hair on the butt. Samantha says, did Fost have an alibi?
So alibi evidence didn't come into the case. briefly, that was something we tried to get into, but I do believe that would be something that may be discussed.
Yeah, and again, guys, all of these answers, when he's saying like, hey, it might be on appeal or I got a reserve on that one, I'm excited to see what develops down the road. So I'll be keeping an eye open and sharing with you guys any
And,
docket updates, anything that's in a pleading.
and let me clear that up. So, as far as the legal definition of alibi, no. Just to answer that question short, no. But there are things that we could have brought up that put them into place around that time.
All right, and then we've got, I think this would be 19 from Bad Boy. Could the DNA get cross contaminated at the lab?
That is always possible in any case.
Yep. We've got, I'm looking for questions. StreamYard flags like certain things with little question marks. So I'm looking for those guys. We've got, that guy Nick says, in the state's ultimate theory, whose DNA was there? I was never clear on where, whose DNA was where? I was never clear on where it was.
So the state presented evidence that Mr. Melton's DNA was there in Miss Baker's kit. Mr. Faust's DNA was present in Miss Baker's kit, and there was an unidentified third DNA profile in Miss Baker's kit.
And then we've got, I see some questions repeating that I think are people, because I didn't see them right away, but it's the same usernames and same questions. Um, Ooh, now that you've kind of entered the world of YouTube, Laura says, will you be a regular contributor to LawTube? Attorney Mark Betterow often does. I think you'll be an excellent contributor. Please do.
I really, really appreciate that, but I have a lot of people I have to take care of, so I try to use that time either for them or family. But if Cat Not Williams ever needs me, because I feel like I owe her as well as uh, Attorney Little, if either one of them needs me, that's something I would take strongly into consideration.
And I'll answer this one. Lady Di, anything that is publicly available, we will talk about, we'll share, we'll raise awareness too. Um, let's see. Let's see. Lisa says, Mr. Cruz, parentheses King, why was the sentencing so immediate? Did they do that to shorten your post-defense filings and proceedings?
So typically, sentencing can occur same day, and I believe Judge Lott gave us, I think, 2 days, if I'm not mistaken. Be mistaken, but she gave us, I think, 1 or 2 days. It was 2 days before sentencing. So it wasn't as immediate as we typically see. Um, if I hope I'm answering the question if she means the number of days, but typically it could occur same day. So she did give us 2 days.
And I think sometimes the distance is when someone wants to do like a pre-sentence investigation that you need time to speak to like probation officers, parole officers, and get a rundown there.
Sure.
Big question here, if you have any insight here. The Honorable Jessica Berryman says, why did Lisa call my name?
So I don't know if I can speak about that publicly. But yes, Ms. Berryman, you became a person in the trial for a short period of time. And hey, how are you, by the way? And thank you for all your support of Mr. Fox.
Shout out to Jessica. Jessica's neck of the woods seems to be over on Facebook, but if Jessica, if you ever want to come up and chat, you can come up on YouTube, and you gotta teach me how to do more on Facebook. But guys, Jessica Berryman is when Judge Lisa Lott was. Is there a Jessica Berryman in the court? That is who we are speaking of here. Mel G says, I think this is 21, says, what made you ask Chris about him not crying?
So we knew based on watching testimony and being at other trials, we kind of know when testimony is rehearsed and when it's not rehearsed. And one of the things that you would have noticed from any witness that was genuinely hurt in our case and was crying about, just everything that took place, it was you could tell they were genuinely crying. That genuine tears were shedding. We just think based on what occurred on direct, that was an appropriate question to start with.
Over here, we started doing cry polls. Like, I just put up a poll, like, do you think they're really crying when we don't see tears on the screen? We've got 22 here. Interesting. I like this top level question. Away from the case, thinking broader, do you think AI juries could be the future?
That's a great question. I don't. I think that would go against the Constitution, because the argument would be that you're entitled to a jury of your peers, and AI would not. Unless a judge at the Supreme Court comes down and says AI is considered peers. But no, anything is possible in the future, but not in my lifetime. I don't think we'll see AI juries. You may see AI lawyers before you see AI juries.
Okay, I see they're calling me out. Who's counting the questions? Cruz said 31. He said 33, right?
33.
33, because that's the number of the fundraiser. But I'm trying to count. I think the next one would be 22. But I just lose track when I'm up here. I can't do it. So we've got, all right. Do you think the YSL case exposed a lot of corruption?
I do, and I won't call it corruption. I think it exposed just the human side of police work, and you can't take it as because an officer says it is true.
Yeah, I think good answer. 23, we have I'm so empty. Well, hopefully this is fulfilling for you. It says, were you expecting Melton to testify like how he did on the stand?
We were not. We were not. We didn't know what to expect with that testimony.
All right, and me, Mary, I do want to just state this Fost DNA not hitting CODIS before. It's a little bit of something that might come up as an appellate issue and a little bit of something that was discussed with the previous question. So might be good to be replay crew on this one. Good to see you. We've got, let's see. All right, some of the questions are repeating. Okay. Did you see the eye drop deputy clip from court?
I did not. I did not. The eye drop deputy.
Oh man. You know, when we watch trials, sometimes there's like downtime, there's quiet, and there's just like little clips of people doing like normal things in the courtroom that are just funny because it's on television. And the main deputy or bailiff that was like kind of like a very square face and some facial hair that would often be sitting with the court assistants off on the side, he was going back towards the door to chambers and he just stopped and just went boop boop with some eye drops and got them perfectly, didn't miss. So
Uh,
everybody on the internet, a user named DB is the one who pulled the clip, and everyone's like, dang, he just eye dropped with perfect accuracy and precision there. So we're just wondering if you saw that clip there. Let's see, other questions. How long have you been practicing law?
I got barred in 2017, November 2017, so a little bit under 8 years.
There we go. And many more. Cheers to many more.
Thank you.
Bailey B says, this is 25, I think. How can we reach out to Fost to show support, such as letters?
Jail ATM. His family has allowed me to share that. I had staff check to see if he could receive physical letters. I was advised that he could not receive physical mail, but jailatm.com, and you can put in his PIN code, which is, wait 1 second, 1977 is his ID.
Okay, cool. And that's just like a website, Jail ATM?
.com. That's how you can
Okay,
communicate.
there you go. Interesting stuff because I had no clue. I just texted you Nick's email as well, so you should have that now.
And thank you for
Um,
everything, Mr. Starro.
yeah, Nick, if you weren't, you must have been here to hear that part, but in case you missed it, he was like, oh my gosh, if I knew, and was very grateful to hear that you did the fundraiser on your panel. Guys, Nick Starro does a panel show every Friday night where we talk about different trials. He brings on a different panel of guests. It's always interesting. And very often we somehow devolve back into talking about YSL. But last Friday, he dedicated the panel show to a fundraising effort for Fost Appellate Fund. So that's also something worth checking out on replay if you're interested. We've got, let's see, I think this is 25. How do you feel about the missing evidence?
It was disappointing, but I believe it was enlightening for the jury, or I hoped it would have been enlightening, but it was shocking, very shocking and disappointing.
Um, Daphne Watts says, and this is, I think, a good time educate us a bit on the appeals process here, what's considered, what's not. On appeal, do you think that they will dive more into Melton's statement, the because I didn't want to see the destruction I may have caused? In my opinion, that was a confession.
They may. So the way the appeal process works, they look for legal errors. They don't relitigate the case. The closest they get to determining whether or not the jury got it right is they'll look at the sufficiency of the evidence. But as far as that particular statement, in light of a particular error, they may consider it. But the statement by itself, just to say, hey, Chris Melton did it versus Mr. Faust did it, no. But in the overall appeal, that may become relevant.
All right, we've got 26. Will you start having someone review chats to gain info that may be helpful to your case in the future?
I think that's a great idea from what I'm hearing from you good folks. So absolutely.
And it's a great way to explore like differing opinions. Like the chat has me thinking about things in different ways all the time. And that's
Mhm.
a scale of like 100 people at a time giving their perspective. You're bound to pick up on something that you never thought of
Absolutely.
before.
Absolutely.
Um, and we answered this earlier. Currently, you're still in. He's still in county, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. And again, the hope is he's not there long enough to be stuck for long. We've got I'm seeing repeat questions, so let me make sure because I'm slow to getting through them. Have you ended up talking to the jury? We kind of saw right away that it seemed like they didn't want to speak, but have you been able to get any feedback from the jury?
I did. I did. I spoke with the
Cool.
jury, and deliberation started out 10-2, 10 guilty, 2 not guilty. And from what the jury explained was, well, the one juror that I spoke with was that the 10 that started out guilty, it was just based on his DNA being present.
Powerful. The concept of DNA is powerful, you guys, and I'm going to do some streams talking about forensics. I can't wait to learn more. CMT says this would be 27 or 28, I forget. Have you ever been in a court trial where the jury can ask questions, like in between witnesses?
I have. I sat second chair in a trial before McBurney, and they were asking questions.
I think it's just out of curiosity. I love to hear it mid trial what they ask. Um, let's see. Some questions. For trial, like speaking of the trial, could it be changed to a different county, a different venue?
Yes. That was something that we considered, but I do believe that may be something that comes up on appeals. But yes, to answer your question, sure.
Let's see. All right. And there's also some questions different people are asking very similar, so I'm skipping them to make use of the 33. I'm not trying to personally skip someone's question, but I'm trying to use some good judgment here and skip what could be repeats.
And I have
Um,
5 minutes. I have a scheduled call at
here
7 o'clock.
we go. So, was that what you needed to leave for? Did you make it to the hospital in time to see the baby being born? Is that what happened two
No.
weeks ago now?
So
Huh?
our baby was born before the trial started.
Okay. There we go. Oh,
The baby was born before the trial started.
what a story that would have been, like right before closing. You're like, hold on, baby's born, and you tell the story later, like, this is how you
I
were
would
born.
not have been back within that week if the baby was.
Let's see, looking for more questions here. Um, Tommy says, will Fost be bullied for anything we do for him?
I hope not. I haven't thought about that. I would hope not. But
I
I
hope this
think
has a positive impact. I hope.
I think with the trial being televised, Mr. Foss is in a very unique position. I think a lot of people are hurt by what has happened to Mr. Foss. I think a lot of people are hurt. I think a lot of people are upset. Um, and Mr. Foss, I hate to say this word, but he appears. Uh, it appears that he was victimized by our system. So I don't think anybody would be looking at Mr. Foss any type.
All right, that guy Nick says, what's the best book you've read recently?
A book that helped get me through this case and the long road to getting this case prepared for trial is a book called The Alchemist. That really helped me with a lot of the difficulties I faced. Also, a book called The 5 a.m. Club. It's a really good book with helping me get a routine in place.
Right, and then we've got, so check out those recommendations. I know some people are always looking for recommendations. Question 31, Cruz, do you think true allele was misused?
I cannot answer that question right now.
Oh, well, I'm excited. I love the ones that you can't answer. I really do. We've got looking for questions. I'm seeing a lot of celebrations here. Let's see. Lots of love from McBurney. I don't know if you want to give this out. You don't have to answer this one if you don't. Yeah.
I can't
Uh,
answer that.
we we plead the fifth. Um, let's talk. So, Lady Laura's question is, how did you feel about the judge trying to get him to expose your strategy at times? And when she would say she didn't understand what he was trying to say, it looked like it was on purpose. You know, how do you navigate not trying to show your cards?
Um, so the procedures of the courts, we have to follow the court's orders. If it's something that we believe is that would disadvantage our client, we just stay away from.
Right. Charlie says, and they're going to correct me on my count. I think this is, am I 31 or 32? When you have to go, you tell me you have to go. Do you feel strongly about the appeal for a new trial, or are we expecting it to be denied like they typically are?
I won't speak on that, but I will say I think there are strong grounds for the appeal. I think there are really good grounds for it.
And then Colonel Audit says, did he think things came in that should never have been allowed before the court, such as no log of certain evidence, or I'd say like the Lugol's iodine testing?
So we raised those objections in the trial. We did raise those objections.
Cool beans. And I think this might be, I got like one more question. Do you see the chat on the side? Is there anything that you want to pull up and answer that I missed?
Anyone that you have, I am fine with.
All right, let's see, let's see. Because some of the stuff is just comments and StreamYard's flagging it as a question. It's not even a question. Um, oh, were you aware of the prosecution and people others in the courtroom having reactions that might have affected the jury?
I was not until after the trial was over with. I think on social media, I heard about things. I don't know how accurate they are, but I heard about things.
All right, we've
And
got it. Oh, sorry,
I
go ahead.
have I have 1 minute left. I have a 7 o'clock call, but I do want to say this. I want to thank you so much. I know not Cat not was. I know Melanie Little was going to say I owe her some time, which is fine. Um, but I just want to
33
thank
more questions, chat.
I want to thank you all for your support of Mr. Faust. I know it means a lot to him, especially during this very difficult time for him. So I want to say you all thank you because without your support, without Cat Not Williams, without other streamers putting this case before you all, Mr. Faust's situation would have been something that was just swept under the rug, and everybody would have said, "Hey, it never happened that way." So I want to thank you all. I truly appreciate you. I appreciate your encouragement, but most importantly, I appreciate you all standing up for Mr. Faust and standing behind him. And we hope that, myself, I hope that I made Mr. Faust proud, his family proud, as well as you all. And I hope the appeal does the same thing for you all. And you see that the money that you donated to Mr. Faust was for a good cause, and you could play a role in him coming back home to his family. It is 7 o'clock. I have to take this call. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you. It is
Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Take care.
Take care. All right, so I had to kick him off the screen, guys. And I was scrolling and scrolling right there. And there was so much chat that I wasn't getting to. I tried. I'm not good. That was my first time doing that. I got to learn how to be a better lightning round question asker. So thank you guys so much for your great questions. The fundraiser is currently at 33,525. I want to shout out. Let's just go through this. Every little bit counts. We have Ronald Bierman with 100 saying this case needs to be reversed. I gotta like these as I go. Sarah S says, we ain't got no quit. Alan Jackson, stay strong during this appeals process, Edrick. You've got so many behind you. Anna Kyra for 20 says, justice for Edrick Faust from Australia. We've got continued prayers, stay strong from Mama She13 Proud. We have Ali with the 25 saying, thank you, Kat. You're welcome. Thank you for hanging out. For all you do in covering the case, Mr. Cruz, keep up the fight for justice for Edrick. Keeping you all in our prayers. Charlie here with the 50 and no comment. Shout out to Charlie with the no comment. Anonymous says, God bless with the 10. We've got Anonymous here with 20 saying from Melanie and Kat. Love the duo here. Love that people are watching both interviews. And guys, there was, again, I tried not to recover too much ground. And make sure you're checking out the interview that Attorney Cruz and Melanie Little did earlier. Anonymous, and Cruz said he might be back. He's got to give Melanie more time. So we've got Anonymous Giver with the 5. We have Sandy with the holy moly 1500 that enabled that chat takeover of the Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was really cool. And I love that Mr. Cruz agreed to do that. We've got Anonymous here from Kat and Melanie. Love to see it. Anonymous here. We've got Eliza with the 100. We have Anonymous Giver with the 100 saying this needs justice. Cupcakes for Fost. Love the ring of that with the 100 here. Danny IRL. Familiar face in the chat. Danny here says, praying for you, Mr. Fost. We have Cupcake Boston Hooker. It says 500. So holy moly. Says we must never stop saying his name, Edrick Faust. Tara Baker deserves true justice, and her killer has not faced those consequences yet. The state of Georgia should be ashamed. We have Nick's liver. I think that's a Nick Starro reference. This is the ad revenue from my fundraising stream. Yeah, definitely a Nick Starro reference there. And Nick, again, I did pass along your email there. Gloria says, stay strong with the holy moly 300. Says, stay strong, Mr. Fost. We're fighting for you. Anonymous Giver says, love and support from another cupcake. Shout out to the cupcakes. We've got Pixie Poo saying, I love that. Praying for you, Edrick. Stay strong. We have Anonymous Giver with the 50 saying justice for Tara Baker the right way. From the cat chat, got to get the rhyme in there. Says, thank you for your fight, Mr. Cruz. Prayers for Mr. Fost. Anonymous Giver says, thank you for all you do. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Let's bring Mr. Fost home to his family. We've got another Anonymous for 20. We've got Daphne Watts for 94. I wonder if that was to round something out. We stand with, beside, and behind you, Edrick. Stay strong in your faith. What's done in the dark will come to light. Praying you come home soon. I have so many memories at karaoke at Alibi with you, and this breaks my heart. So someone that's seeing it go down with someone that they know. Like, this is very real to people. And kind of a side story here. Last night, I opened up Snapchat. I don't use Snapchat anymore, at least not to take pictures. I use it just to message people I know. I tried to go back in time, like a time capsule, and find a video of me doing karaoke. And that was going to be my fundraiser for this stream. And I couldn't find anything that was longer than 7 seconds. And I was like, well, that's not a good idea. But I did want to let you know, I was initially going to try to find like me doing a song at karaoke as like the auction prize for a fundraising goal. And if I can do more research, if you guys would donate to the cause for something like that, I will try to see if any of my friends that I used to do karaoke with have something that's longer than 7 seconds. I will fall on my own sword. You guys can hear me sing off key and make fun of me all you want. But I would see if my friends have something like that, if you think it'd be something good to raffle off for the cause. We've got Trey Keisha here, Jersey Girl Trey with the 50. It says it takes a community. We got Lexi the Law Nerd. I'll always love Lexi's breakdowns and note-taking on trials with the 20 here. And I got to keep liking these. Let's see. Jenna here with the 50 says, praying for Edrick. What a terrible miscarriage of justice. Amber C with the 25 says, getting donations over a milestone. Thank you to the cupcakes, Kat, the chat, and Mr. Cruz. We're going to throw Nick in the mix because Nick got the fundraising streaming idea going for us on Friday and got it in my head that, hey, we should, we're not just fundraising for the sake of it. Let's turn it into an integral part of the streams that we're doing. Amber C also with another 25. I think there's a duplicate. Love to see it. Let's see. Anonymous says 25 from another cupcake. Thunder Cupcake with the 10. Love the name. Says prayers for you and we will help you get out of this. Tia W with the 20 says sending you love and support. We will not give up until we bring you home. No house, no Faust. Anonymous giver here with the 20. Let's correct this miscarriage of justice. California Cupcake with the 50. Holy moly. Jen Smith with the 100. Holy moly. We've got Anonymous giver with the 40. Holy moly. This is like back-to-back big ones here. Diane Phillipson with the 50. Holy moly. Says justice for Tara is not convicting an innocent man. Mr. Faust, you have support from all corners of the world. This is from Diane in Melbourne, Australia. So reaching far and wide, Mary D with the 50. Holy moly says thank you for advocating for justice for the Baker and the Faust families. We've got Diane Phillipson, 50. Holy moly. I think, is this another one from Diane? There we go. I think this might be a repeat. I think it went in twice. It's here twice. You have support from all corners of the world, Diane from Australia. Maybe it's repeating. Anonymous giver with the holy moly 1000 here says no weapon formed against you will prevail. As God is my witness, he is going to see you and your loved ones through this with victory in Jesus' name, amen. Anonymous giver with the 50. Holy moly. We've got Nurse Kimberly Sunflower with the 100. Holy moly. Us cupcakes are behind you. Shout out to the cupcakes for a new trial. The court did you wrong. Keep the faith. Annie Burgess, 95 here. Holy moly. Says, bothers me so bad I can barely rest at night. Pray justice be served. We've got Anonymous with the 10 here saying, stay strong. We've got Anonymous here with the 100. Holy moly. Stay strong. I got to put the holy moly emoji back in the chat. It just used to be a little mole with the halo. Anonymous giver with the 50. Holy moly says we all need to fight this fight and not give up until Mr. Faust is home. We have Nikia Fouchais with the 100. Holy moly. Our ancestors have awakened and you will receive justice and they'll make others pay. They're using you for something bigger. We have to sit back and watch them work. And then I think some of these when I refresh are duplicating here. We've got Brit Happens with the 10. A conviction is not the same thing as justice. Praying for your family and the family of Tara Baker and for the truth to be revealed in this horrific matter. We've got Carol with the 25 saying justice please for this innocent man. Shanikia Young saying here from Catnut Williams. Free Mr. Faust, this is so terrible. The jury got the verdict wrong. Praying for Mr. Faust and family. We'll be donating more anytime I have extra. Anonymous giver with the 20 here says keep pushing and don't give up. We've got Anonymous giver with the 10. We've got Camille Cupcake with the 100. Holy moly! For Kat, Nick, Melanie, thank you for covering this case. Mr. Cruz, thank you for being a great advocate for Mr. Faust. Adrian Skirvin with the 10 says Cupcake here. Showing up, making it known. Amber Dawn Them Johnsons. I hope you're doing well. I feel like it's been a minute since I've seen you. Says 25, stay up, my guy. I'm so sorry that your freedom is slow rolled now. I'm so sorry about the verdict you received. It was unjust and completely biased. Hold your head up and try to stay strong. God's got you. We've got Anonymous here with the 20. We've got Christina Moon with the 10. We've got Anonymous here with the 10. Hang in there, Mr. Faust. Christy W with the 100. Holy moly. We've got $10 here from Anonymous. It says Yarnwork Cupcakes. We've got Anonymous here with the 10. Grandma Ninja, the Honorable Grandma Ninja with the 25 here from Catnut Williams. Hashtag free Edrick. Hashtag no house, no Faust. We've got Anonymous here for the 20. God bless Mr. Cruz for his hard work and efforts. Wishing you much success. Mr. Faust, prayers and strength for encouragement to keep fighting and keep trusting God's plan. Hashtag free Edrick Faust. Prayers from the cupcakes and the cupcake emoji unite. So, love that. I always love a good emoji train. Anonymous with the 25. We have Kathy S. Prosser here with the 50. Holy moly. Justice for Edrick Faust. For justice, we've got 10 here praying that the person responsible confesses. And isn't that something when you hear a case like that where someone confesses and sometimes that's not enough, but sometimes that confession is taken seriously and an innocent person finally gets to win their freedom that they've been fighting for and saying, hey, I'm innocent this whole time. For justice with the 10 says praying that the person responsible confesses. Anonymous with the 50 holy moly says, I hope you don't have to wait too long for real justice. Innocent people don't belong in prison. Anonymous Cupcake 2 gives 15 here. Keith Sorrell says, all praises to everyone who donated and been very supportive to Edrick and his legal team. Heck yeah. Anonymous giver with the 50 holy moly. Edrick, I have never seen anything so disgraceful as the way the police, prosecution, and the judge treated you and your lawyer. While you were in prison, try to read the book To Kill a Mockingbird. I can't figure out how the boyfriend, who was about to be dumped, which is a leading cause of femicide, wasn't arrested immediately. We're going to fight this all the way from a cupcake. We've got Anonymous with the 20. We've got Lynn with the 25. We've got Melissa Schultz here with the 20. Anonymous with the 25. This is the stat, guys. This is how we are. We before Melanie stream started, I went and looked, and what was the exact amount? I put it in the notes. I'd put in a donation, and when we get to my comment, that's how I'm going to know, like, we got there. I put in a donation as a benchmarker, but I'm also going to try to kick up a recurring theme with my latest donation. We were at 25,190 before I made that donation. And you guys know we hit over 33 since Melanie stream started and the stream was going. So that is just incredible. That is just incredible. We've got, let's see. Yes, Deb's UK Cupcake here with the 20 says, thank you, Attorney Cruz, for your passion and dedication to your client. You were amazing and so inspirational. Edrick Faust, I watched from the UK and wish I could do more to help for you. My heart goes out to you and your family. My heart also goes out to Tara Baker's family, as jailing an innocent man is not justice. Thinking of you all. Anonymous gifter with the 50, holy moly. This is just like a stream of wins. Love to see all of this. From the UK donor with the 33 US dollars. I always wonder what the conversions look like. We in the UK believe in justice for Tara Baker and justice for Edrick Faust. Anonymous says, cupcakes unite and we have no quit. Dottie with the 50 holy moly here and no comment. Anonymous here with the 100 holy moly. We've got Rosaline Brown here with the 10 from Melanie Little's Cupcakes. Got a cupcake checking in from Missouri here saying, keeping the faith that justice will persevere and Mr. Fost will receive a new trial. God bless you. We've got Anonymous here with the 20 saying praying for the Fost family and E Cupcake Carol. We've got, and E from Cupcake Carol. Anonymous here with the 25. Anonymous with the 50 cupcake from Memphis, holy moly. We've got Chastity Danielle with 15 says, come hell or high water, we'll get you home. Sending love from Tennessee. Keep your faith. You've got an army behind you. We've got Anonymous here. Cupcakes are here for you. We will fight for your justice. Stay strong, Mr. Faust. You've got Anonymous Giver here with the 50 holy moly. Prayers for Mr. Faust and Mr. Cruz from a cupcake. Cupcake here with the 25, thinking positive thoughts. Another cupcake here says, we're behind you. We know you're innocent and will not give up until you're set free. M. Oslin says, to fight and clear injustice. We don't kill a mockingbird. Anonymous says, so many prayers headed your way. Keep fighting the fight. I promise you're not alone. Lisa says, sending love, strength, and support to Mr. Faust and his family. Cupcake from, is that Arkansas? No, that's is Arkansas AR? Because AK is Alaska, right? So I think that's Arkansas. It says, we ain't got no quit. Sorry if I'm moving you across the map. Anonymous says, may this help with the appeal. Every bit helps. Thank you for anyone that's sharing, talking. Guys, remember, like a week from now, think about this case and remind people, hey, don't forget about that appeal. Lovey Foss Cooley with the 30 and no comment here. Love to see it. Maybe a family member. Cupcake from South Dakota with the 100. Holy moly. We've got Anonymous here with the 25. Cupcake from West Texas, not to be confused with East Texas or West Texas, with the 30. We've got Free Edrick Faust here from She So Chai. We've got Sarah Adler with the 20. We've got MOG Cupcake here saying he's innocent and the evidence proves it. Anna says, we will get Mr. Faust home, sending all my love from a cupcake in the UK. Look at this, like worldwide. Cupcake from New Hampshire with the comment here, Mr. Cruz, you fine sir, taught so many of us so very much on the power of the pause. Mr. Faust, you also, fine sir, are backed by so many hearts. Never give up and lean in always. Lucky 33 and Larry Bird XO. We've got Anonymous here, gifting with no comment here. Love to see it. A cupcake here says, thank you for Mr. Cruz for coming on with Melanie Little. Make sure you guys are checking that out and allowing us to hear more about this case and your client. We've got Deborah Gelsey, maybe it's Gelsey, with the 50 holy moly. Says, keep the faith, Edrick. You'll make it out of this. You have cupcakes on your side. Another cupcake here saying we believe in you. Serenity here with the 50 holy moly. May this wrong be corrected. God bless. Cupcake here says praying for you. Anonymous here with the 50 holy moly and no comment. Jan Jack with Cupcake Power wishing you all the best. Hope you get the attorney you need. Chuck Pascal with the 10 here. Let me make sure I'm liking all these. Jay-Z Proud Cupcake says this was a modern day To Kill a Mockingbird. I still can't believe the outcome to the trial. All I can say is free Fost. I wish I could donate more. And I think that's a strong feeling. Like, please don't feel any shame for not being able to donate more. Like, as that's what we all gotta lift each other up when one person can't do it all on their own. We've got Anonymous here with a fair trial is paramount for any defendant. I couldn't believe in 2026 a man could be found guilty without evidence. The UK watched and is disgusted. Stay strong, Mr. Edrick Faust. You're in our thoughts. We've got Bunty Baggins here with the 10 with love and hope from England. We've got another Cupcake here praying for you. Please know we believe in you and will never stop fighting. No house, no Faust for the 50 holy moly. Says prayers for Mr. Faust and family. I hope the nation gets behind this like they did with Karen Reed. This is by far worse because he was wrongfully convicted. We've got a 50 holy moly here from Anonymous saying stay strong, Mr. Faust. Anonymous here says, I watched the whole trial. Edrick is an innocent man. There was no evidence against him. If he was leaving the scene of the crime, he would have been carrying her laptop. Anonymous here with the 150 holy moly says praying strength for you and your family. Elaine Mello with the 50 holy moly says watching Melanie Little, who brought this trial to us, and hoping that this donation can assist with the appeal process. For those of us who watched this trial, it was a travesty of justice and needs an appeal to help Mr. Faust regain his freedom. Best wishes to you, Mr. Faust, and hope to see you freed. Anonymous here says, good luck, OX. Hug. Wait, O is the hug, right? And X is the kiss. Anonymous here says, God bless you, Edrick. Kim Campbell says, horrified by the verdict. I'll be donating every month till the appeal. Love the commitment, because this has to keep moving. I'm in it for the long haul, praying for Mr. Faust and Attorney Cruz. Cheryl says, I'm so sorry what happened to you. It was so obvious. I think that's a autocorrect. It was so obvious you were doomed with this judge. I feel you're completely innocent. Stay strong. You're in my thoughts and prayers. Kafsa with the 25 says, God bless. Ayo 76 says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Anonymous says, good luck, EF. We'll be with you all the way. Cupcakes are with you. Sumo says, even the UK is watching and are outraged. Anonymous with the 50 holy moly and no comment. Connie M says, praying for a swift appeal and freedom for you. We've got a Cupcake. Oh, did I miss this one? Yeah, okay. NH Woman with the 50 holy moly says, free Edwin, free Edrick Faust. Cupcake Nation has your back, Mr. Faust. A Cupcake says this trial was a travesty of justice. Georgia is still in the dark ages as far as innocent until proven guilty. Shameful. The judicial system is broken and the judges are backwoods. It's palpable. Stay strong, Mr. Faust. Anonymous here with the 10. And guys, this is like, seriously, just within the last few hours. This is all piled in. Betsy here with the 10. We've got Carla Burkowski here with the 25. We've got Anonymous here with the 10. Another 10 from Anonymous. And Anonymous with the 50 holy moly says, I hope this injustice is overturned. Sending prayers for Mr. Faust. We ain't got no quit. We've got Anonymous here trying to help from South Dakota. Land with the 30 says, no house, no Faust. Free Edrick, we have no quit. Charissa says, and maybe it's Carissa. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Free Edrick. Make sure we get that hearted. Anonymous here with the 5. Let's see. Stacy Face Travels, 50 holy moly says, I'm so sorry this happened. None of it makes sense. I'm sorry. And that just came in. That says 4 minutes ago. Anonymous with the 20 says, none of this makes sense. Guilty or innocent. The state did not prove its case. Cruz clearly provided conclusive evidence for anyone to have reasonable doubt. Jennifer Colstock with the 50 holy moly says, as a Christian and a huge criminal trial follower, the Holy Spirit has spoken and Edrick is innocent. Our Lord will prevail over his conviction and those who framed him. Shame on them and the GA judicial system. Liz Bingham and the representatives that supported the funds to support this discrimination against Edrick will not prevail. As for the real truth is coming out now. Love from Hudson, Wisconsin. We have Lisa Tootsie here with the 10 saying, I trust that God will reveal the truth and freedom will be received. Corey KJ Jones says, we are going to right this wrong. Free Edrick. We have Emmett Till. donating 25. So I think we're making use of the name field here in a wise way. It says, just know God sees everything that wasn't seen. Shanitra Williams with the 100, holy moly, says no house, no Faust. And that takes to my benchmarker here, and this was way longer than 54 minutes ago. But anyway, because I did this at like probably 2:45 p.m. Eastern, about 15 minutes before Melanie's stream. So I had leftovers for lunch. I didn't try to make something new. I wasn't wasting groceries. And I'm going to keep donating every time I save some money that I can chip in. Because I'm saving something, I'm going to chip in. I'm going to leave a comment that says, here's what I did to save money. I had leftovers for lunch, so here's another 5. I hope others will join me in saving and sending a bit as they can. And maybe just a habit to consider for any cause you're passionate about or think is worth, you can and want to contribute to something. You know, I think this is a good mindset to give back and pay it forward when you can. So my previous one, I did another small donation like the day before this one where I'm just like, look, I was going to buy dinner, but I cooked at home. So here's another 5. And that's going to be my habit to keep this going outside of like a big lump sum initial donation. Because one thing that sucks is to see an initial wave. Something's really good the first day and then it fizzles out, right? So I think that was a kind of cool way to, you know, make it an ongoing habit. So thank you guys. I thought it was important to read all of those. I also want to shout out, you know, super chats were turned off for the stream, but you guys are sneaking in with the memberships here. Alyssa Hughes was celebrating her 11 months, so thank you for supporting this channel for 11 months. No house, no Faust. Freedom Ring became green. I believe I started a comment where Freedom Ring said, yes. Just bought my first membership. I'm honored so that I could use these cool emojis for this interview. So Freedom Ring wanted to be able to use the Attorney Cruise emoji. That's available to channel members. So very cool reason. I'm honored that you decided to become a member and use those emojis. The honorable and or infamous, depending who you ask, Jessica and Berryman, thanks for becoming a member. Tatum, I'm pretty sure is renewing a membership, but it says new member. Thank you for being a member and thank you for attending this interview today. I know this is something that you care a lot about. Gloria became a new member, and Gloria Smith's been a member for 6 months. Thank you both. We got the Gloria gang growing in the chat. We did also ask this question earlier as well. And again, I'm looking forward to any question that Cruz couldn't really give a full answer to is piquing my curiosity, and I can't wait to see what's to come. Destined to be, holy moly, 20 months. Thank you. We also asked this question earlier, but I wanted to show appreciation for being a member for 20 months. And then Angelica, thank you again. I think this is a critical thing that was addressed over on Melanie's interview, but I think it's worth saying twice. The story that we heard during victim impact statements about someone getting pistol whipped by Fost, just not true. It's just not true. It's straight up not true. So why not say that 3 times? And thank you for being a member for 5 months. And then Bad Boy here, we also asked this question, but thank you for being a member as well. Guys, I know that seems like running through, but I think it's really important to thank everybody that's participated. It really doesn't matter how big or small the initiative is. And if you can't donate, you can always share something. You can ask questions. You can keep talking about a cause that you care about. So thank you so much for sticking around and watching, you know, that lightning reading here of the donations. Shout out to everyone that participated. As far as what's going on with the appeal, yeah, Mavhawk's question of why E as an eggnog? I was really going to try to get that in as the last question, but he had to go and I just didn't want to blurt it in, but that was my plan. But yes, the E as an eggnog is kind of a legendary moment from this trial. As far as updates on the appeal, you guys, I think a lot of us agree. We hope it goes as fast as possible. We've got to get the ball rolling. We've got to get the ball here. I don't know the amount for the retainer fee. I would be overjoyed if we woke up tomorrow and heard that the retainer fee was met and that ink is dry on the paper. As far as updates and any progress on the appeal, it's something I always look for updates. I feel like this might be a case where you guys I'm gonna get messages from you before I even see it, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, there's an update. So, because so many people, and it's a good thing, I mean that in the best way, there are so many people paying attention and looking for the updates. And if you're interested in what happened here and you see other cases that might be kind of similar, talk about them too. You never know who's going to be interested in it. So, yeah, Sheriff Chuck, can I do membership and donate to Fost both tomorrow? Anytime. Anytime. Until we reach this goal here, there is not a time limit. The goal is the goal. And there's no today or tomorrow. Whatever you can do to help get there whenever is always on the table. Let me get Nick Staro's interview. You guys are looking for it. And I think the trouble, Nick spells his name, it's N-I-K rather than with a C. And YouTube, if you spell something slightly off, it's not going to take you to the right place. His Friday panel show. Here's the link in the chat. If you're on Replay Crew, something I do here, because it's difficult when you're on Replay Crew and you don't have the live chat to click links. So there's Nick's panel stream in the chat. In the description of all of my streams, I made a creator friends playlist, and whenever I shout someone out or I see someone's talking about a case people might be interested in, I try to, just as I'm scrolling YouTube, go boop and put it in my creator friends playlist. That way, if you're looking for something to watch and or you're looking to find a stream that I reference that somebody else is doing, I try to put it all in that playlist. That way you guys can find it. So hope that is helpful for Replay Crew. With that, yeah, sorry, Mavka, I didn't ask him for his take on the Trae Young trade. He might have had a great answer. I think sports can be very analytical and, complex topics. So maybe one day we can get together a panel and we'll get Max Shart. I know Max would like to talk about basketball. We'll gather up a panel of sports-inclined attorneys for an interesting little panel. That's going to wrap it up, you guys. If you're new here, thank you so much for hanging out here. If you know me but don't already know Melanie Little, remember that she did an interview as well. Let me drop a link to that real quick. I think not only is that in the Creator Friends playlist, but I believe it's also specifically linked in the description of this video for the replay of her interview with Mr. Cruz. If I see any interviews pop up that Cruz is going to do, I will, of course, share them as community posts and mention them on ongoing streams. So this one's Melanie. There you go. And again, Replay Crew, it should be in the description for you guys. Thank you so much. If I messed up this interview, don't hold it against Mr. Cruz. It's me fumbling through the stream and learning as I go. Blessed Gigi of 12. First of all, if people say thank you to your service, I feel like you deserve a thank you for your service. That is a lot to cater to. Thank you for becoming a member. And yeah, everyone's thanking me. No, thank you guys. Thank you guys. And I got 34 subs. That's fun. We got to get the fundraiser at 34. I'd rather see the fundraiser at 34. How cool to be like kind of in tandem with the fundraiser chase though. Igor just got here. We've got to start the interview over. Sorry you missed it, Igor. Hit that replay and hope to catch you live next time we're live. Thank you so much, you guys.